Senna, Jack, Ziggs, Skarner, Ash, Vi. OK, ale mají dobrý had. Mají dobrý had, hej. Nemám to pozoru, nemám. Dělám se na Twitchi. Nidali first pick, ty pičo. Jack, Senna, Ziggs ban. Okay. Oriana. Oriana dostala buff nějaký? Že? Orianu se chci naučit, podle mě Oriana je hrozně OP teď. Kameru dopředu dolů, jako tady. Because you can play it support jungle top in theory, so not only will it be flexible in role, it also makes the other team inflexible. Já nevím, jestli to logo můžu zakrývat jako TBH. Jigsonino. Chat, vy jste nečetli Co-Streaming Worlds 2024 Guidelines. Okay. Looks like we might just have the scaling 80 carry Nidali Jinx. Or Aphelios comes back into the meta. The other one's coming too. We'll see if there's any new build strategies for both these champions.
Aphelios, Ezreal, okay.
We saw them in pro play, but instead the Ezreal is going to be the option. Certainly a lot more safety on the bottom side.
I wish I could just fucking flame Pigman! Riot! Sunflowers! Rainbows!
Mrpotržítko Remdíz donate 555 korun českých.
Nelíbí se mi ten draft
v
picking.
nějakém normálním čase. My, pracující, kteří tě sponzorují, potřebujeme taky nějakou zábavu v práci.
Randy, děkuji za top dono dneska, 555, děkuji šéfe. Děkuji. Což 5krát v točce teďka, Randy. Popy se mě líbí, Oriana se mě líbí. Ale všeobecně Nidali je dobrá do popy. Ezreal je takový jako ztracený, ten champ je tam ztracený. A pak banujou Jonáše, aby nepikli Jonáše do Oriany a Brauma. Proč Brauma? A Jarvan Nocturne ban na Vikingy, jo. Lee Sin, Oriana, whatever, hua. Poppy top lane, nebo Poppy support, blind. Alongside the stability of an Oriana and Ezreal, and a Poppy who still can really go in any position that she needs to outside of jungle, of course.
Yeah, I mean definitely watching a little bit.
Krisička to má takhle. Já to taky udělám jak Krisička. Krysík Aleš. Bravně OP, no jako je, no. Komu fandím? Ty vole Mad Lions, protože jsou z Evropy. Jestli Mad Lions prohrajou proti Vikings Esport, a.k.a. druhýmu brazilskému týmu, nebo druhý, odkud oni jsou, prostě je to druhý seed, tak jsme v piči. Next. Ale jako TBH, fanatici tu jsou jediný dobrý týmy. Vietnam, OK. Syndra, Nautilus. Ani pěknou kamel. Hej, tohle je jako dobrý Mad Lions draft, honestly. Jsem překvapený tou Syndrou troška. Ale tohle je dobrý draft od Mad Lions. Ezreal Poppy. Camel Dog, Santeho je good. Lee Sin, Oriana, Don Nidali, Syndry.
Even though he had 4 Nidalee games, his most played champion in summer plus playoffs was actually the Cassandra.
Syndra je dobrý, čo mě taky baví.
Didn't have a good record on it though, 1-4. So how confident are you with this very standard looking mad draft?
I think I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that there's been an jako Mad Lions mají lepší bot lane, mají lepší mid jungle a top lane je whatever, who cares, to je scaling matchup, to je scale matchup, pak jsem to OP anyway.
This is actually the only card that you have. This is the thing that you are good at. So the question now is, will we see that evolution where on a more stable, blind pickable top laner, can he still have that same level of impact? And if people out there are skeptical, I think that's fair. For me, I think we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we're going to get to see it pretty soon. When I look at these comps overall, I'd say Mad have a little bit better
Kde Gamba o body? Moc. Kde jsou modí?
Viking is going to be a team that is going to have a really hard time if they do fall behind. They're very all in with their Poppy, Camille, Lee Sin frontline. That's very much burst them or you don't have a frontline.
Yeah.
So really curious to see how aggressively Viking can play out this early game.
definitely a good question. But of course, when you're playing against something like a Jinx, something like a Nidalee, if you can one-shot a champion,
Mad Lions,
those champions,
nesakujte Dicka,
very
prosím.
easy
Mad
to take
Lions,
down. Get that
nesakujte
Jinx off
Dicka,
the board,
máte
so
dobrý
that
draft.
scaling potentially not as
Hrajete
strong
proti
as
druhýmu
MDK.
seedu z Vietnamu,
Now moments away from
druhý
winning the
seed,
game.
ne
Here
první
we are,
seed, druhý.
MDK versus VKE. This best of 3 series, of course, deciding who will move up. No one eliminated yet. But if you manage to win these first 2 series, you'll already be moving on to the Swiss stage. Both teams
Šňupman a Frost tady jsou za moderátoři. Moc!
Yeah, quick hit on the format. As you mentioned, there are 4 teams moving on from the play-in to the Swiss stage, unlike last year where there were only 2 teams. So for these teams that are actually in the play-ins, it is a little bit more forgiving of a format. If I'm looking at the top lane engage right here, they're going to get some nice poke down.
Definitely not a forgiving level 1.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's pretty frustrating. Not sure what the time is on the clock as of this moment, but given how persistent Elyoya is being, minions just now spawning.
Tlač mu tu spear do prdele, ať neinvadí hajzl. Ještě mu cancelní base. Dej mu autoattack, let's go!
Just finding individual members really early cause.
Oni
And this has to be
swapujou?
frustrating for VKE because it's just so disruptive
Oni
to any
swapujou do
plan
Camille.
you brought to the table.
Well, also, we could be seeing a swap in game 1. Look where Supa is still. He's still around the red buff, going to be taking this top wave. So the changes that actually happened to the lane swap since the last time we saw
Kámo, mě tam mid lane láká. Uvidíme ten patch. Budeme hrát AD carry na tom novém patchu. Solo queue a uvidíme, jaký to bude. Ale mě láká hrát mid lane, honestly. Mě to legit láká. A nebo top lane.
VKE stack that wave in bot lane and how big the plate differential ends up being.
Proč? Mně přijde, že to má hrozně velký impact teďka. Hlavně v solo queue. Solo queue máš hrozně velký sidelane pressure, sidelane impact.
Going towards 100% fortification, so it looks small on paper, is big in actuality, and they're actually going to be getting near that turret in the top lane fairly soon, as we see some
flip, není,
coming
top
down
není
from the
flip.
Lee Sin as well. And currently,
Top je
nobody
snowball heavy,
underneath
kam
that
uděláš
turret.
1-2 chyby a je ta hra, ta linka je over.
Hold under this wave, and Mirwin can probably teleport in as well. This is the adaptation we've seen from a lot of top teams when you get a level 2 support.
Support prostě poběží na botlane, Xante tam dá TP, aby ho nedali dive. A budou ve dvou a bude 2v4 dive. Teď otázka je, jestli bude 2v4 dive nebo ne. Problém je, že oni můžou one-shotnout. Typo je strašně late. Ne proč on typo je strašně... On to zahrál dobře, ale Alvaro. Alvaro to zahrál hodně dobře. A ten štít z Xanteho. Mega dobře zahraný od Alvara. A ještě veme solo expy. Tohle je... Let's go! EU! 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 Kámo, tohle je nejlepší scénář. Support nebere XP, Xante dostal kill a veme solo XP. A ty pičo, to je insane! Ty vole, let's go.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Let's go,
So
let's
often
go.
in the lane
Kde je
swap,
overlay,
you're
by the way?
judging the XP
Co to je za
difference
overlay?
between these respective solo laners. Everyone able to catch
Co navrchu
a ton of
vlevo
that
něco
sharing
chybí?
with Supa as well, so it feels pretty fantastic about that exchange. And I'm not going to say it was perfectly planned, but the result
Predict flash.
pretty good is now.
Škoda, ale good. Alvaro MVP! Alvaro intil, by the way, jo, jenom v Evropě. Ten člověk byl tak dog shit, že prohrával solo, prohrával každou hru. A teďka dal 2 playe, který jsou úplně OP. Cancel base, a ještě cancel base Oriana. Já.
Supa happy to have that time isolated on the top side. Only a single plate being taken across that entire swap. Much more about that early dive, which is big. You can see the gold essentially neck and neck. 6.5, 100 gold difference, really all it's separating. We'll see as we get closer and closer to that first grub spawn. If anyone is going to reset, try to reposition on the map to try and find a man advantage or more vision control around that.
Díky za 3 měsíce, děkuju.
Relatively quiet early game following that initial chaotic few levels.
Yeah. We got really excited about that lane swap.
And then it
But
was
now I'm
very
looking
short.
at the scoreboard.
Teďka drag, mají slow push setupnutý na botu, takže padne první drag. Pro Mad Lions by měl spadnout první drag teďka. Mají mid prio, mid nemá summoner spelly. Bot má slow push.
To je kurva.
Dá se sázet na to, kdo mít prvního draka? Live betting? Nedá? Dá.
Junglers are the
Dá.
same CS.
This is the modern era of lane swaps, you know? I think, frankly, I think MDK did get away with murder there because the balance team really tried to
Se divím, že nešli toho draka, ale ty vole. Hodně se divím, že nešli toho draka na botu, to postaré Madlines. A Xante je balance, hoši, vy chcete zabít Xanteho? Co se vám vysměje do ksichtu, vole. Úplně dogshit puffing od Lisina a potom z nějakého důvodu nešli na draka. Nidali nešla na draka, když měla mid prio a bot prio. Oni budou raději hrát na grubíky, ok.
There would be ways to actually eliminate lane swaps, but the collateral damage to the way the rest of the game functions
Void jsou better, ano, Void jsou hrozně OP, by the way. Void v kompetitivu jsou hrozně OP. Draci jsou doslova jako o dost horší, o týr horší než ty. Na autu si vzal ten normálně Demolish. Hustý.
It's a good question. Of course, objectives being traded here, both tower plates and grubs for Dragon. So MDK grabbing a couple plates topside for the Jinx. Elio, you're going to pick up all three of the initial grub spawn.
3 grubíky a teď záleží next grubý spawn, pokud stihnou, pokud zvládnou. Špatně posral. Hrozně posral posral to Ečko. Chompers. Nice.
That's the damage they need. MDK finding a kill on the top side, and Nanoe is going to feel a lot less comfortable sitting under that tower, but luckily does tick over to level 6.
Yeah, really nice getting the kill onto Elioya there after the grubs, then also
Elioya.
and take this red buff, might slingshot him ahead.
Madlines ve formě, ne spíš hrál proti druhým, musí jít tam.
The most positive play that Mad have had yet this game.
Certainly, and I think it's pretty difficult for there to be a counterpunch on the bottom side from VKE because Lee Sin Ezreal against a potential level 6 Cassante, it's just a difficult target to lock down, especially when he has double cloth armor. And now you might see the re-dive. VA coming in.
Wow.
Super going to be in trouble.
Wow, dobrý cancel. Traps interrupt, boom, choose, Braško. Go next. Go next. Xante 1v2 zabíjí Ezreala. LOL. Greedy motherfucker. Chtěl dát 1v2 double kill. On se spavne a je mu to jedno reálně. To byl dobrý pokus. Teď nemá summoner spely. DC prosím. OK, Hanziku, ahoj.
Even though they were somewhat disconnected plays.
Yeah, hovering in the darkness
here.
Yeah. Control ward, but you're completely correct. I think Mirwin, I respect that this is a stage he knows, he's feeling comfortable, he's feeling confident, he wants to go for the play, but it's one of those classic situations in pro play where you didn't need to. If it worked, great, but you kind of already won on the top side. Don't need to go for anything else. That said, won't cost him in the 1v1, and that is going to be big. He's still fine versus the Camille. Nanoe already running relatively low on mana.
Tak, chat, nemusím být uražený, Honzík mě pozval na co-stream. Na ty naše hry. Po X týdnech jsme to zvládli, jsme to! Hej, tady ale kdyby to zahrál mnohem líp a zaultil... Mysnul všechno ten Mirwin. Mysnul všechno. Tam, když by získal kill, tak by to bylo Warfare. Já jsem se bál, že by tě zase Melichara posral do prdele hned na začátku, abych se z toho na tvém místě asi rozbrečel. Tak jsem ti to nechtěl udělat. Ok. Ne, mně to přišlo, že se k vám seru moc, víš, tak jsem si říkal, že na to jako seru, že si klidně zahrajte ve třech. Že mi to nevá. Mě to baví s váma, ale jakože jako, si se mnou nechcete hrát, tak to nevadí. Já jsem dospělej, to přežiju. Ale Melichar je Melichar, no. Mám to opožděný, zkusím to... Worlds Extension, pozor. Tady bylo... Aha, já jsem myslel, že tam bude ten overlay s tím. Jaj. Počkej, ne. Je to tam! Chat! Máme nový overlay! Sleduj! Ty můžeš čekovat a itemy, goldy, Let's go! Oni to měli v Americe udělaný, ale jenom v Americe to měli udělaný. Dívej, Syndra, Total Gold, AD 3600 Gold, 4000. Bacha, nic nevidím! Ale kurva, nic nevidím. A teď si můžeš čekovat goldy a tak, to je cool. Jo, takže schválně Ezreal, 4000 goldů, 3008, Jinx. Ty gruby, hej, kontesti jak blázen, protože je strašně důležitý teďka nenechat 4 nebo 5 grubů. Dívej, že to je fight jak blázen. Ale tady to prohrávají. Hej, Mirvine, bráško? Jak balance, jak Sante, by the way? On prostě flankne 5 lidí, nedostane žádný damage, veme si jednoho z šaška sebou, kňapne ho za hlavu, hodí ho přes zeď, vole. A mají teď 5 grubů, což je huge. Mají 5 grubů, kámo. To je huge. To je huge. Dívej prostě. Blast planta a čus. Kňapne Ezreal za hlavu, Ezreal nemůže nic. Ještě dole máš 2 tlačítka, kde si upravíš tabulku. Runes. Nice. Scalující runy. Build. Skills. Tady uprostřed. Oh můj bože! Tady se... Hej, já normálně ve fightu budu mačkat toto a ve fightu budu mít zmáčknutě, ať vidím, kdo dává kolik damage. Ty vole, let's go. Teď budou mít first turretu kvůli těma 5 grubů. A kamo, těch 5 grubů se posrali. Takže to je over. Jover. A už spravili overlay. Gold. 5600. 900 goldů a tady konečně mají ty goldy advantage AI. Nice, oni hej, už spravili overlay. Jde zvětšit minimapa, nejde. Damage to champions, Xante největší XDD. Okay. They want to assign lanes here. Frescali is able to push Shogun out of lane. Thieves, no moc velkou ne, hej.
Super just going straight to mid lane. Makes sense, get control of the map, and again, 5 grubs attached to a Jinx. It's a very scary prospect when it comes to tower pressure. And VKE will continue to stack dragons, however, so potentially something in their back pocket, a get out of jail free card for any early game mistakes if they are able to secure soul or force a favorable fight when MDK are inevitably forced to contest.
Yeah, I mean,
5 grubů je ale úplně, kámo, huge, to je fakt huge. Ty prostě ničíš ty věže takovým stylem, že dostáváš tolik goldů. Ten je straight up dead, jo. Mirvin to trošku inkuje. OK. Ale proč to nebloknul? Proč to nebloknul, by the way? To měl bloknout tohle vysynkvačko.
You talked about it, they might not have killed the Nidalee, but top and support a pretty damn good deal.
AD má, hej, Jinx postavila Infinite Age první item. Interesting. Jako stavil bych to taky tak, ale zajímavý. Ironie je, že Ezreal je teďka silnější než Jinx. Kvůli Trinity Force. Líbí se mi ta nová grafika. Nervin to tady hodně intuje.
Feeling confident knowing LOA was waiting, not anticipating the additional member from VKE, and of
jo,
course,
ty van jsou na World.
few champions alongside
Kámo,
Coffee in the game.
víš co je po piči, jak je ten World Song a jak tam featurujou T1. Víš, jak museli mít prostě Monka S, ti vývoje, nebo ti jak se to jmenuje, animátoři. Ti animátoři a Riot museli hrozně Monka S-ovat, když dělali ten videoklip, protože reálně ten videoklip byl hotový tak 2 měsíce předtím, než se nekvalifikovali T1 na Worlds. A T1 byli normálně 1 hru od toho se nekvalifikovat na Worlds.
Hold on to this gold lead. Still a pretty sizable advantage, but as you highlighted before, really just in jungle and AD. If Supa or Elioya aren't involved in the play, that gold lead really does not exist. And now for Nanoway on the top side, small advantage.
Takže Jinx nemá cutdown je interesting. Tak ono je nerfnutý cutdown teďka hodně. A ono je lepší mít větší damage, když je někdo má nižší HPčka, abys měl víc secure killů. Máš větší šanci na to zabít někoho a získat goldy na AD, než dávat damage. Třeba midlaner za mě by měl být třeba cutdown, chápeš, když by někoho hrál cutdown a se boostuje z někoho ze stovky na 50% a pak AD damage.
Would normally be able to do with a lead like this. So for now, they're just going to focus on playing around the Jinx.
This is nice.
Keep core members strong.
Reálně tady ani nemuseli dávat Heralda. Tohle je trošku in, že tady dali Heralda na turret. Ale kolik je tam těch grubů? Vole, familia se spavla, vole. Vem tu turret, supa.
Debating if they want to keep pushing. I think Tower 3 would be a bit greedy.
Nidali Liandris. Kámo, jak OP je Liandris, když prostě i Nidali postaví Liandris první item.
Not fantastic, so don't really feel confident to walk in or threaten.
Really nice play there by Mad. I'd say Elyoya just kind of setting up shop whenever they have the Jinx and the Nautilus and just fishing for spears does a lot to make the other team very hesitant to be in an engage range where they can have a counterattack, not to mention they just had a large numbers advantage there the entire time. So getting 2 turrets off of a Herald is probably like top 5% of all Heralds you're going to get, especially when it's the 2 mid turrets.
Double mid towers I have not seen very frequently. No. Very powerful.
5 grubama je to easy, no, ty dvě věže.
We'll see how confident Shogun is to step up. For now, it seems like he is, but when they don't have that vision, he's really going to have to be cautious about going too far forward. Elyoya spending some of that well-earned money on the Seeker's arm guard.
Měl jsem zvědavý na ten durability patch, chat. To zase začnu hrát League of Legends zase po dlouhý době. Jak dlouho jsem teď nehrál LoLko krom včera? Krom posledních 2 dnů. To možná je 2 týdny, 3 týdny, co jsem hrál LoLko, ne? Ale když to Kens... Ježiš, on to naintil Freskowi, tady to mohl vyhrát, by the way. Ježiš, ona i fell first. Ej, má si nechat stun na to, aby cancelnul Qčko od Lysina. To za A, za B. Kdyby flashnul potom, nebo jak to zahrál, tak mohl stunnout oba dva, pak flashnout Qčko od Lysina, pak zaultit Lysina, Lysina je dead. Ježiš, my region, Mirvin, stop inting.
Kadi could hide in that bottom turret bush right there, and he was able to get a full channeled recall off, then teleports back in to get the
Máme
kill.
30 gold advantage a prostě naše soul linky začnou ztratit ruce najednou. Jo, večer dáme hry s Herdinem Heisenbergem Flagerem, jo. Nepsal mi Honzík dneska. Teďka mi psal Honzík, že to, že hrajeme ty hry naposled, co jsme hráli Wormseek a tohle a Golf. Tak jsem zvědavý, co pak vymysleli.
And they also don't know where the Camille is entirely, plus with the flash up, that's big. So because everyone's respawn timers took so long and they're redeploying now towards mid lane, it's again the setup for this Dragon. So we're in a bit of the same situation where if Mad can't stop the Dragon snowball, they'd actually be in trouble despite how much gold they have on the Nidalee and the Jinx.
Yeah, Supa is powerful. If they can protect him in a fight, they can get a full 5v5, they're going to feel good. But right now,
Stavit další zíly ten, ne LDR tam měl se, ne?
VKE who are going to be first and set up on the Drake. Doing their diligence now to
kolik má AD Supa? 195 jenom. To je celkem crazy, ne? Že máš prostě jenom 195 AD v 19. minutě. S 2 atemama. Ale tak it is what it is. Little tempo se strašně bude hodit. Až ho dají zpátky. Kolik má Ezreal? Ezreal má 180. Ale nemá ani druhý item. Až bude mít druhý item, tak bude mít tak 240.
Because you could see Mad wanted to go for a turret trade there. Maybe we see
Kámo, tady je to ono se to updateuje v real timeu, to je insane.
Very constantly here to cover, but play just gonna fizzle. Taking blue here with It's a bit bold.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
Oh, yeah, he's gonna get it though.
206 Jinx AD a 250 AD
Turret
ten
ends up going to the
Ezreal.
Syndra anyway, just 30 seconds late, so it ends up actually being the turret trade. Gold lead stays about the same, but I'm actually pretty impressed with Viking here, sticking with Mad. I think
Oni tak oni nerfnuli to AI znova, že? To se podíváme. Že mně přijde, že by jako teďka měla, Jinx by teďka měla být tak 230 AD, 240 AD s dvěma itemama mi přijde.
They haven't really been heavily out macroed here. So this game will come down, I think, to Mad finding ways to get picks in the
Tak,
jungle,
pojďme se
pick
podívat na tu
second
hru.
tier turrets and ultimately force Baron.
3K goldy,
If
2
they
draky
end up
pro
having to wait
VKE.
until Soul for this game, we're talking like a
Tady
40-minute
budeme hrát
game,
ty
and
vole.
it's a total flip, but with this advantage, there would be a
A
player
jako
like Sid
Madlands
that
má
can
lepší
actually catch Camille up
fast
here in the top
rotation
lane,
na Camille se
keep
snaží.
going for that turret.
Oni
These
teďka
are the
můžou
types
dát
of plays
fast
Mad's
rotation
gonna
na tier 2 a vemou tu
And
tier
MDK as a
2.
team, of course, love to fish for picks. One of the simplest
Wow,
ways in the
super
mid lane
bacha.
game for them to close
Tady je
things
free
out.
tier 2 top, to je dobrá fast rotace od Madlands. To je good. Pět grubů to one-shotneš, kámo, prostě. Ale proč jde melee range do toho? Camille flashla? Lol. Proč jel supa melee range do Camille? Halo? Tohle je Worf, tier 2, za tier 1 mid je Worf, by the way. Ale někdo měl... Vikings jsou Vietnam. Tak teď budeš hrát mid bot, uděláš to stejný na tier 2 bot. Jo, uděláš to stejnou rotaci na tier 2 bot, protože máš 5 grubů. Hrozně OP ty 5 grubíci. A potom, co vemeš tier 2, tak můžeš začít hrát Barona. Oni teďka zavardí Barona a měli by udělat tu stejnou rotaci na botlane. A oni se snaží zabít Orianu, to je divné. Kolik má Jinx AD? 235. 254 ten. Dej mu! Dej mu! Čo, ale dobrý damage, WTF?
Oh, he's going to be really fed this game. He's not even reached his final form there, and he's already dodging around, getting huge poke damage onto the Lee Sin. I think the player that has been largely silent but is now very important, as that recall almost gets interrupted, is Frescowi's Syndra. This is the item buff for Storm Surge, and it's also the champion that has become viable because of it. He's at a point where he can probably one-shot the Camille at the start of a team fight, which is really going to diminish.
Je Worf stavit druhý item Zeal tak brzo. Jako je. On si postavil lifesteal, jo, když se podíváš na to, a hlavně tady ty runy má, Absolute Focus a Gathering Storm. S těma runama si můžeš trošku doholit dávat to. Druhý Zeal item. Proč tady dává 3,6 attack speed, co? To je bůk, ne? 3,27 attack speed, co? Ty nemáš, s kulometem nemáš 3,7 attack speed, boys. Nemáš.
The Jinx is so accelerated. The game plan for VKE is probably
Q
just going to
passive?
be to try
Ano, já
and
vím, co dělá Q passive, ale vím, že to nemá 3,7 attack speed. To je blbost. Ona má teďka 2,20 třeba, nebo 2,40 attack speed s max Pčkem nastakovaným. Ten je dead. XD, ale měl Mirvin to na intě. A další slow. A proč Mirvin neflashnul? Kamo, Mirvin to intuje. Hej, Mirvin je fakt dog shit, ale... Co dělá Mirvin? Fajti! Hej, on hraje Xanteho, má 2 itemy, 3000 HP, flash ult a ten jeho flank úplně posere, protože on má zůstat v tom bushu a počkat na Ezreala, až dá Ečko over the bush a pak ho zabije za ultí. A pak třeba může celou dobu flashovat na toho Ezreala a one-shotnout ho a nic nedělá.
When they started to push out mid lane, already VKE were on the side lanes. You can see that entire bot lane wave getting deleted. They're losing gold just to be here. MDK conceding a couple waves, conceding some prio on the map.
Wow! Hey, Loya! Let's go. Freeman Oriana ult, ale nulový damage.
Can't even find the angle to group up and fight together. Kadi getting nothing done. Supa finding the kill. MDK fully confident.
Mervin to inky, no. Ale Mervin a Alvaro byli hrozně špatní v Badlands, mám pocit, ne?
You could see the Syndra power there, bursting the majority of the Camille's health before the final spear comes through to finish the job. Now 6 kills for Elyoya.
Elyoya good, no, Elyoya good.
Even if they don't land the hard CC, just the R button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spheres, not even a like Giga 7 or 8 sphere move right there, is enough to take him down, and then with the Camille down, there is no one in front.
Na Alvarově je dobrý, že se nebojí, ale on když hraje v LECčku, tak jak hraje, tak je třeba 0-10 a turbo to intuje. Teďka to třeba naintil úplně tu situaci. Byl úplně někde, kde neměl být.
Barely able to walk that one out, but it's at least stopped the play crucially, and the side wave still in favor of VKE. At some point, MDK will need to manage here.
Man, that was close.
Těším se na ten nový patch, honestly. Zahraju si lečko.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm looking at how much damage that Syndra goes, and I go, I don't know if this was a Ravenous Hydra game, but this might just
wow, to je free Baron. Oni to nečekli. To je free Baron. Tohle je ale mega play od Vikings. Tohle byl mega dobrý play. Holy, my region. My region.
Just start stealing objectives. You'll love to see it.
To říkám na Instinct na novém patchi, nevím vůbec. Čekal bych, že to bude tank meta, tam se budou monster OP. A uvidí se. To byl mega dobrý call, honestly. Já jsem byl překvapený, že to rushou tak rychle, že to zabíjí tak rychle toho Barona. Baron potřebuje další durability patch. Baron potřebuje další durability patch! Kámo, dřív Baron byl takovej, že se ho všichni báli, vole. Když jsi šel na Barona, tak si vždycky vipnul. Teď toho Barona zabiješ za 5 vteřin. A to už ho buffovali, že má víc HP.
That thing died very fast, and that keeps the game close and competitive.
And I think one of the struggles of MDK's composition is if they're ever.
Ale jako Madlands má akorát dog shit, kámo, extrémně dog shit. Oni mohli celou dobu, oni mohli vzít tier 2 dávno.
Yeah, maybe you take one person out, maybe you're able to poke a bit, but you can't get in there and risk anything to get a steal. Nidalee will just get one popped. Curry though, waiting off to the side, bot prio right now in favor of VKE, but no one down there to push that wave forward.
Durability patch je zpomalit hru, aby nebyly one-shoty všichni. Aby třeba když máš 2000 HP AD carry, aby na tebe nefoukl support jeden spell a ty umřeš. No ten pavouk na Twisted Freeline, ten byl Vinomysu, to je OG, kámo, ten byl mega OP. Takhle má být Baron, tak jak byl ten pavouk na Twisted Freeline, tak má být Baron.
Because it is basically just a way of delaying the game and equalizing the gold slightly. I think
the Red Bull Baron power play is the value of the Baron. Not a lot more gold was accrued.
Good job. They stopped the game from snowballing out of control, and it's been at around 2 or 3,000.
Prostě tier 2 na botu celou hru stojí, když máš 5 grubů, to je extrém.
I think this game mostly is going to be about how both teams play around Supa's Jinx, though. Blood first are completed. Okay. 3 full items.
Kolik má AD Jinx?
And the fact that there's 2 low mobility carries for Scowie and the Jinx, if they do not frontline properly ahead of him, they can get him one shot, but if Mad sets up well, with the power they have of like Nautilus, Cassante, they can actually still mow through VKE in team fights.
Well, and essentially,
konečně vzali tu tier 2, ale Oriana jim veme tier 2 na topu, kámo, to je extrém. What? Proč někdo netýproval na top lane, aby to nevzali? Wow. A ještě to veme solo gold Oriana. 700 goldu. Oriana 1400 goldu ahead.
That will very quickly end Supa's life, but the rapid fire cannon coming through fourth, so often people would go for armor pen, but there's no armor, so he just has the luxury of buying so many of these more aggressive AD carry items, and now he's going to be even more comfortable in the fights.
CDR, Ninja Tabi.
If we're trying to guess what VKE is saying about their itemization is the best defense is more offense. Because they just need more damage to make sure that the Jinx and the Syndra can't take him down.
I just think Steric's Gauge is generally such a strong item, and while I get Ravenous for the side lane threat, I'm just like, again, just stare exchange every game. Stare exchange, please. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what the tunnelers are
Jinx nepotřebuje LDR, no.
But I think that alone is going to help so much with specifically Frescali.
Je, kolik mají armor?
Of course, if you're caught out, it won't matter too much.
112, 132, 84, 90, 143. Jako už to tam zavání, že už by měl postavit aspoň malinký Last Whisper. Ale jako nemusí, no. To je kurva. Nautilus flash hook, čus.
VKE spending a bit too much effort setting up these traps, looking for these flank angles and just not bringing enough members to them.
Oh, steal!
The objective, bringing them up soul point. Now going to make his way over the top. In the meantime, Shogun now trying to get out. Now away, getting the kill back. Frescali taking out the equation. Guri coming out the corner. Shogun.
By the way, Xante.
Now has to backstep. Is it still going to cancel the all wants to keep going? Guri still alive.
XD Xante.
It's so much work.
Oh,
it's such an
nearly dead.
Moment, but it doesn't matter because Supa is still alive. The Jinx still there to finish the job.
What is going on, Dracos? This was now a 4 for 2.
No, jakoby... nechci jít říkat, ale tohle je druhý region, druhý seed z Vietnamu. Druhý nejlepší tým z Vietnamu. Ne první, to není GAM, OK? To za A a za B. Kurva, proč máme takový problém s druhým regionem, s druhým seedem z Vietnamu? To je kurva. Maruško, ahoj, děkuji za Prime. Prostě Frescali, já nevím, kámo. Mid lane, top lane, mid lane jsou prostě. Funny, že Xante, Ezreal je nejvíc safe AD carry a Xante ho málem solo zabije 1v2.
In all of this is going to be the biggest tragedy, and the fact that that went over to Ezreal. What an insane sequence.
I think, yeah. Because that was wild.
EU je každý rok horší a horší, se mi zdá, jo, mě se taky zdá, no. Mně přijde, že je hrozně moc týmů v Evropě, nebo hráčů, kteří jsou prostě spokojení s tím, kde jsou, že dostávají milionový prachy, ale nic nedělají k tomu, aby se zlepšili. Prostě paycheck kolektujou. Je to hrozně moc těch týmů a hráčů. Zony a Jinx, ty vole, tak to na. Zony a Jinx?
Supa is very rich, but Supa is also desperation rich because that is a Seeker's Arm Guard on AD carry, which is not completely uncommon. But
to koupí a prodá potom, ne?
To the burst potential of the enemy team sort of purchase because he knows if he's ever picked off, very likely MDK could concede at least a major objective, if not the entire game.
Yeah, I think it's a smart purchase for how rich he is at the moment. When he has enough money to buy a full Guardian Angel, I think he'll sell the Seekers and probably buy the Guardian Angel, but by that time he's probably used it at least once. But Baron's up, and it's time to set up and wait for someone to come in, because what happened on the last Drake, the start of it was actually very good for Mad. If they can find Orianna or someone trying to move
a dělej něco! Já se omlouvám, ale dostávám ADHD strike, když prostě se nic neděje. Kámo! Je to even! 33 minut even proti druhému seedu z Vietnamu.
But Lee Sin, much higher value in this late game in terms of playmaking potential than a Nidalee, whereas normally he's going to be outclassed.
My prostě dostáváme out makrot od vietnamského druhého seedu a out split push. Tak Kamil je 4000 gold ahead. Ona reálně může dát 1v9. Tak Kamil dá split push win.
Ends up with Mad just resetting, refilling their wards, getting as
many zony, kurva.
as they can. Nice control ward cleared there by Elyoya. Because of that
ať si koupí Last Whisper a drží a prostě nejapuje nějakou zonu. Turnujte to za 30, však vole už mají 180 armor, 100 armor, 115, 138, 150. Už by se to hodilo.
Walking in, Mirwan gonna spot the Camille. Mirwan very fearless.
I was thinking Nanaway was potentially in trouble, but because if Mad was able to move down the river there, they could have punished the flashless Camille, but he just slides right out of there undetected.
It's difficult, I think, for Mirwan to be too much of a threat without committing a lot of resources.
On si myslel podle mě, že ta hra skončí na dalším fightu a proto koupil Zoniu, aby měl Zoniu a aby pak vyhráli fight. v ten moment to je jediný důvod, proč je lepší Zonia než G. Kdyby věděl, že ta hra bude o dalších 10 minut delší, což je, tak si koupí G. Kde sleduj, ten blázen, on potom prodá ten item a koupí G. 20 vteřin do toho, měli by split pushovat a nechat třetího draka. Ty vole, Viking by neměli fightit. Viking by měli split pushovat a reálně na Nanue měl split pushovat celou dobu. Mirvin, co děláš ty debile? Kámo, Mirvin! Hej, ale Kamil měla split pushovat celou dobu a potom nechat draka měli. Nice, dobrý cancel. Ale jsou mega low. Tohle je bad pro Vikingy. Oriana je prostě, nemá ruce. Ten člověk nemá ruce. Má normálně flash celou dobu. A Kamil má split pushovat celou dobu. A ještě, že Viking jsou tak bad, by the way. Mirvin tady mohl celou dobu split pushovat bot lane, nechat je vzít draka a vzít bot inhibitor za draka, bylo by to 3-3 na draky a pak by mohli ty vole pressurovat barona. Tohle je docela klauniára, jo no. Kámo, legit, já nevím, já si vždycky říkám, když vidím evropský týmy, co nejsou Fnatic nebo G2, tak já si prostě říkám, kámo, já dostanu ego trip jak Vipo. Prostě legit, já kdybych koučoval jakýkoliv tým, který není G2 nebo Fnatic, tak jsme třetí v lize, my jsme třetí, my budeme prostě každý split třetí. Není možný, aby můj tým nebyl třetí po Fnatic a G2. Tam jsou všichni tak trash, ty týmy, potom i Fnatic reálně jsou bad, ale aspoň hrajou něco, aspoň hrajou prostě jako tým trošičku. A tu zónu má furt. Pentakill. Kdyby měl Last Whisper, tak tady všechny zabil, by the way. Ale nedává damage, protože nemá Last Whisper. Kolik měl goldů? Já na to nemůžu kliknout už. Ty vole, to byla Journey, no. 35 000 Jinx damage. Tak, Jax, Senna, Ziggs zase.
Just a little bit more in that mid to late game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Kati is going to want a lot of those later fights back. I think the rest of the team also didn't play around him very well, but he was the one dying.
S Draco jsem se známil, jo, on mě přemlouval, abych byl caster. Jsem měl 3 týdny jsem měl školení od Riotu a od něj jako bait caster a analytic desk a já jsem pak řekl, a ne dík, já jdu hrát do Německa. Mohl jsem být K-Drill, ale prostě raději jsem šel hrát do Německa za ad hoc, a.k.a. GGFF.
A lot of your draft strategy, prep and planning can be deleted very quickly by a man who is willing to play any and every champion in the top
Tak, Skarner, Ashe, Vine, Jinx first pick.
So a bit more safety and knowledge there. And interestingly, despite the success of the Nidalee, instant Jinx lock-in worked out well.
Oriana zase. Kámo, ale ty jsi tu Orianu vůbec neuměl hrát. Namiko, díky za 3.
VKE are going to have to contend with, and they've decided, hey, we like the Oriana, we know it's a powerful pick. It was just some of the things in execution or some of the supporting pieces that might need.
A Žaluda kouřila Borka na přechodu, guys. Ach jo. Já vám nebudu říkat žádný svoje story, žádný svoje příběhy vám nebudu říkat prostě. Prove it, normálně se ho zeptejte se Dracose. On vám to potvrdí. A jak jako zeptej, však to bylo, vy najdete si záznam, já jsem byl na 3 týdny na analyst desku. Zase Xante. Tak, teď tokrát Jhin Oriana. Ten Ezreal byl hrozně useless. Xante 1-2 prostě, nebo 2-3, to je funny. To je prostě Syndra, Xante, Jinx.
Their own hands issue rather than a draft issue because they're fairly comfortable just running back exactly the 3 champions they had in that last game here.
Hejbali jste se
I wouldn't be
vůbec?
too surprised if we saw the Camille here instead of the Jarvan, but we'll have to wait and see, because Jarvan is very good against both.
Jarvan je good proti Syndře a Jinx. Nice, Jarvan Oriana, let's go, to je dobré kombo, teď se mi mnohem, kromě toho Jina, tak se mi líbí ten draft pro Vikingy. Girihao KC příští rok.
So need to see if that hype is warranted. Obviously, just a couple of passive percentage damage buffs at a couple points. I believe it started here and in some of the most recent patches. So just a little more
League of Legends, Viego ban, okay.
In terms of that CC,
Syndra Viego je
Jarvan has always been a pick worth considering.
For sure, and I think the buff is less of a reason why we're seeing him, and the bigger reason why we're seeing him is there's more teams whose mid and AD carry lack dashes.
Je to trash angle.
Checklist for is Jarvan good here? You have both check marks when the Jinx and the Syndra are locked in. So it absolutely is very good here, just because of the teamfight power of the ultimate.
I don't know, Jad. I always really like when they pick Jarvan into LeBlanc. That always feels really effective.
LeBlanc's area.
Yeah, it always feels like you're going to be have a high impact moment on that J4. But no, obviously the circumstances right, the patch is favored as well. With AD carries out of the mid lane. A lot more room for Jarvan to shine. And now the Poppy, interestingly, going to be the pick that is taken away. I mean, if you look at Poppy in the early lane, if you're not going to go for one, very high base damage, a lot of kill threat. If you opt to go for something like Halo Blade, it's a very lane-focused rune. Can really provide a lot of threat onto the Jinx. So instead, Rel getting covered, still I think probably best in class in terms of blind pickable supports, even over Nautilus, just because of the it's just Alistar with a better lane.
Jarvan ti flankne Syndru a dá to kombo tím stylem, že pak zaultí a cancelne, že prostě dodgene ten stun od Syndry.
Oh, okay. I was like, that was some wild flame, but I misunderstood your intent there.
You just need to be picked to die. Last year I had Nautilus, it didn't work out. It ended up being Rel, but enough of that. Same picks for Mad so far.
Different order though. They're giving us, you know, just a little bit of a mix-up here. Maybe hoping to get the Lily band away. I mean, double AP mid-jungle duo can cost you. Wouldn't be surprised to see some potential Merc treads come through, but again, the amount of CC you're actually mitigating here isn't incredibly high now that the Rel's locked in.
Počkej, oni nepikli Rel, oni pikli Renektona.
The hover on the opposite side, again, early lane up until level 3, very likely
Rel by byla po piči s Jarvanem a s Orianou. Lepší než Alistar.
That said, as we saw, the lane phase wasn't the big deal in the previous game. It was a lot more about that mid to late game, those objective setups, and that diligence around vision control.
Ahoj, jsem Žena, čau Namika, XDD. Joke, samozřejmě, čtu všechny komentáře.
I think if you had to pick between Alistar Rel, which one would Vikings want? They'd actually want the Rel. What they wouldn't want would be for Super to have like a range support like Lulu and just take over the laning phase, because they don't want to be in another swap situation with the Renekton against the Cassante. So I think Mad used that leverage to actually get the better engager on their team, because I do think that the Rel is slightly stronger than Alistar on this patch.
Yeah, I think clever thought process, and laning phase can dictate a lot of these early plays, and Rel is certainly favored early on. Much more reliable version of Alistar in so many circumstances. It's the ult, really, in the later stage portions of the game where Alistar can balance out some of that, the dive threat, but no Renata, no Lulu, no range supports. Once again, we have two compositions set to brawl, but I really like the shotgun kind of that VKE are bringing here. Jarvan, Oriana, classic combination. A Jhin who can support without needing to put his life at risk. Alistar as well. And not only on something that is going to do fine in isolation, right? He doesn't need attention. They can give it to him if they want, but now set up much better to play around bot lane if they so choose.
Much stronger team fighting from Vikings in this game 2 compared to game 1. Mad have exactly the same type of team comp. The only change is instead of a Nautilus, they have a Rel. And I gotta say, Alvaro played very well. To me, he was probably the top performer on the team, weirdly enough, with the crucial hooks he landed time after time in that game 1.
I think a good call out, Jat, as it was a game that we expected to be so much about Supa, and certainly his gold lead was a big portion of that, the lead that they built from early on, but what ended up being the defining factor were those picks, were the angles that stopped us from ever really getting into that even 5v5 situation. Now we take to the rift. The second game, we saw that sign in the audience. It's someone's birthday. Mad Lions don't make them sad. I'm assuming that means they're a Mad Lions fan. If they're a VKE fan, they've already started to make them sad, and I'm sorry for that.
And do we see a swap again? I think it's absolutely in the cards, just with the Jinx and the Cassante and how it seemed quite effective for Mad in the first game. Based on this setup, it would say no, but you can still switch through the mid lane whenever you want.
I only think that worked out so well because of the absolutely crazy timing where Mirwan shows up bot lane, gets all the XP and a kill.
Yeah.
I don't think you can guarantee that again, but Jat,
they're doing it.
you might be the wiser man here. They are setting up for it. Super still on the top side. Past a minute. This is going to be difficult for Nanaue.
I'm just wondering what's going to be different, because that was like such a standard swap, at least what I would consider standard now, where when they try and crash the wave, you bring down 2 level 2 people, and if you're doing it like full standard, you teleport in a little bit earlier and everyone just like walks away, and then you're not even getting that many plates. That's how I'd like to see Vikings actually respond to it, is they just stack the wave and they get as many plates bottom as they can. Going for the dive is actually, if Mad have enough experience to defend it, it's not going to be that big a deal.
See if anything happens here as we approach.
Brixy.
Actually, we're not going to be approaching the wall. I forgot there's 2 champions.
Elektrický stůl si mám koupit, ať u toho můžu stát.
I'm not used to the new reality of 2v2s.
Mohl bych, no.
So, see if there's any angle here. Of course, Guri being spotted on the ward means
Teďka streameři promovali nějaký elektrický stůl zadarmo, nebo jakože dostali ten elektrický stůl a za storíčko, ne? Co to bylo?
You can see the support is getting level 2 by sharing, then he leaves. The top lane should get level 2 by sharing, and then he leaves. And then
hlavně se s tím nechce stěhovat a tak, já jsem línej.
This could be a big win if he just walks into this bush. Just try and push him off. He doesn't have smite.
Yeah, on the way down. That's an ignite already ticking. Aftershock damage going to come in, but Guri.
Ne, on to neresetnul. Teďka dá dvojitý, proč nedal dvojitý Včko a pak ještě first blood.
For VKE, Frescai and Alvaro going for a bit more chip damage here, but Kani there to cover at the very least. TP's back to the bottom side, coming in from Mirwan.
Liftor, možná je to Liftor.
So mirrored start, but the kill is still in favor. Now Yo-Yo.
Oh, Q-flash, let's go. Tady je zbytečný flashovat. A actually může. A proč neflashuje Oriana? Kámo, já nevím, tenhle člověk, Katy, minulou hru taky neflashoval nic. On má prostě disablenutý flash.
Right here, this is why you swap, Dracos. It's because you can create these somewhat chaotic situations. And to me, Vikings just slept on it a little bit. They weren't expecting Alvaro to go looking for his jungler. And just Jarvan gets a little bit low doing that clear, especially when you're in the enemy's jungler, because those camps, when you're counter jungling early in the game, actually have more durability. So you hit them slower, they do more damage back to you.
Tady kdyby stylnuli Cápkovi tenhle ten camp, tak je to GG. To je GG. To by snul anyway. To je to GG. To je FF, konec. Nutrego, děkuju za 2 měsíce. No nic, ještě zabijou Jin, nebo forsnou ty summoner spelly tomu Jinovi. To nemůže zabít, co dělá? Zbytečný.
But you're so right, Jet. If it comes down to a situation where you're trying to out-clear speed in Italy early on, you're just not going to win that, especially as a J4. And now, Guri's life is miserable because he doesn't have a topside jungle. You can see him now on that mini-map. He's wandering in to see if he can even get a little crumb, little scuttlecraft, just desperately wants level 3, but yeah, luckily not on the top side of the map means he will at least be able to get something back. We'll see if he can counter jungle any camps, but right now it's a massive deficit. 800 gold overall on top of a bit of an XP lead coming in from Elyoya, which will only continue to grow as he farms the rest of those camps.
Yeah, I wonder how much he's going to continue to just be in Jarvan's face. He's got so many camps of his own.
Máš 6 campů
I think that's what Elyoya is going to do, just kind of take that free golden experience, because when he gets his first item, he's really going to be able to walk in and continue to punish. But that was just overall beautifully done by Mad, and I'd say poorly done by Vikings. If they have the Jarvan, like, I'm going to go back a little bit. I think as long as nothing crazy is happening, I'm going to go back a bit to like what they could have done to maybe prevent the Jarvan from dying. Is they need to they probably just need to have Renekton babysitting the Jarvan if the enemy support is going to be looking for you in the jungle, because that way he can't actually go for the all-in. You don't have to worry about experience share in that case, and the Renekton falls a little bit behind, but at least the game stays stable.
On hraje agresivně a hraje pěkně tuhle hru, ale problém s Alvarem je takový, že kdykoliv, kdy hraje proti lepším spolu enemy hráčům, tak mechanicky to nezahraje a zlomí si ruce.
But the advantages can come through experience and through the team comp being superior. So this case, the team comp of the Nidalee was a better clear than the Jarvan, and the Rel was extremely good at finding the Jarvan, and that's the advantage that they were able to exploit.
Also, those Rel early levels. Until Alistair has level 3, he just doesn't really have that much damage in the kit in a full rotation, even with Ignite. And so if there's a 2v2 Alvaro versus Elyoya versus Guri and BA, they're not winning that in any circumstance, and the lane swap allows them to find that situation where they can leverage 2v2 strength that in a normal standard lane game of League of Legends, you're just not going to see.
800 goldů na Nidalí, 400 na
Again, it's about a
Syndra.
2,000 gold lead. Feels like that's been the gold lead the entire series. It just happened a little earlier in game 2.
Yeah, I think this game's a little bit harder to play. Credit to Guri, he's still walking in like these
Oh mój Boże, go next. Legit go next. Legit go
So he's
next.
got to be a little bit cautious, but look at him just playing on the edge there.
Go
So good.
next.
Alvaro's here
Až si
too.
tady zabil, sleduj.
Stop a couple backs. Guri
Ne,
actually
měl
right now
počkat
is
Elyoya s
Super
tím
is
s tou
already moving
kvečkem.
up to the tower. Level 6 Renekton probably can hold this solo.
Měl počkat.
Luckily,
Nemůže
Shogun's
dát
on the way, so he
reset, no.
won't be in a situation where he has to. MDK
To můžou
can't afford
divenout.
to
Však
overextend.
divuj!
CC and setup is big, but with Renekton losing-
Bam!
Perfectly timed, Rock,
Ale
and now
fight!
getting quicker on pressing that
Fight!
up. Guri's gonna
Tak,
die
výborně,
too.
výborně,
Double
výborně,
kill
výborně,
for the
výborně.
Jinx. This is
Dobrý
an
tower juggle.
absolute
O můj Bože! EU is back!
Alvaro just
OK, EU is back, oni jsou oba dva dead. Oba dva dead.
And they're not going to stop.
Oba dva jsou
Nidalee
dead.
has enough mana to just keep
Má
throwing
flash
spears.
Nidalee. Zahraj to s
Getting
flashem.
his
Flashni
next wave, and
Alistar
they are
combo.
gonna have to abandon this
To smohl zahrát
Because
Elyoya.
they don't know if Rel is there, so they have to leave despite Alvaro's low health bar. A single piece of CC.
Kdyby to Elyoya zahrál s flashem, že flashne Alistar combo, tak vyhraje.
But there's nowhere they can go. There's no play they can make on the map. They're just forced to play to the tune of MDK. Stand into this tower as long as they can.
Neví
Guri's
Jarvana.
showing up again. Topside at least
To
he's got
věděli,
some
že
procs
Jarvan
to get
umřel a
some
že ještě
XP
nebude tam.
Wow, they're playing clean. So I
Ale
did
je
not
lepší to
see
zahrát takhle
Super
safe
level
a
6.
neumřít, honestly,
And I'm willing
než
to
nebo
say
jako moc
Nanue-
zahrát.
Nanue, Renekton did not see the level 6 either. He's all discombobulated just like I am. But that was such a beautiful exchange, because absolutely your level 6 Renekton, you think they're mad if they come for me. But my goodness, they were not. Or they were? You gave me like a little...
They are mad. I mean, you said they're mad.
I know, I didn't actually mean to do it.
I know, but that's why I gave you the thumbs up.
Thanks, bro.
It's like when Amazing played, and we always had to call plays solid instead of amazing.
I mean,
Koukám,
okay,
tady
Jinx
měli
actually
počkat na
level 6 for quite
kvečko
a
a
while.
Igna. Jo, tady to je,
Stun
počkali
into
už.
Airborne has a
Boom,
window
on
where he
nestihl
could have
zaultit.
rushed R and maybe lived through, but then he just
Tady
gets
to je
one
strašně
shot
dobře
because
zahráli,
it's
ta
4v3
spíra byla
where they
huge.
lose
A ten tower juggle od
2-1
Elyoy byl
and
huge.
both kills going over to Super's
A tady jsem
Jinx.
tyva čekal, že to
And
zahrajou
also
s tím stylem, že jako budou
Vikings having to
pokračovat.
abandon this turret is
Dobrý
just the cherry
spacing
on
od
top.
obou.
And when you fall behind in these skirmishes,
A
even when
tady,
you're under the
on
tower, look
myslnul
how
to
free it is
speedu.
for Jinx to walk up, get a cheeky auto. Nidalee walk up, throw an auto, throw a spear. You just, there's nothing you can do. You're literally just trapped there waiting, hoping that they don't have enough in the tank to force the dive. It's Rescally, nice scatter. Bit of additional damage, and we take a look at the overall map state with a lead like this. And
14-18 patch round.
But Mirwin matched up against Shogun.
Haha,
Shogun knocked the edge
pozor! AD
really
carry
well.
Doxanteho.
Cleanse as well. 2-3 ready
XDD.
to go, flash forward. Looking to lock him up. A Shogun clean flash out to safety. Will at least survive for now. Mirwin going to immediately cancel the all out to get those resistances back. Elyoya caught.
Wow.
Good upfront
To je
damage.
bad.
Mirwin gonna try to body block and he
To je
falls.
hodně
Shockwave
bad.
there. Elyoya taken
Škoda,
down.
ještě, že to vzal Jarvan.
Shogun's a play. The rocket not going to hit either. Mirwin now going to be in trouble as well. One last shot for Shogun, but he reloads. Now going to find the counter audience as well. Good punish.
Kdyby vzala ty dva killy Oriana, tak by to bylo bad. Ale ona by zase neflashla. Ten Oriana hráč by zase neflashnul ve fightu, takže by to bylo irrelevant. Flash. Cleanse. Nemá cleanse.
No flash, no ignite. Maybe they're just going to settle for Alvaro in the meantime, but he's got a flash as well. Last tick, one auto stun, but Alvaro gets the stun back. Stops any follow-up. No rocket for Supa, used it in the earlier play. Tried to get a kill bottom lane. Nidalee on the way up.
I mean, credit to Supa, he actually held his flash that entire time, so BA never actually had a kill angle. If he goes back for another headbutt, it would have just been flashed. And they are able to get out of that situation without a death, but they obviously did lose Mirwin and Elyoya in the earlier exchange, so a little bit of that early lane swap lead goes away.
Unfortunately, still leads in just about every single role. And reminder that
Brix, já jsem ten patch notes ještě
you know,
neviděl.
has been a very up and down year. They started winter incredibly strong, dropped off a cliff, made a miracle run to get back into the
Ale když se dodíváme společně na tuhle hru, tak po téhle hře, potom uděláme patch notes a řeknu vám svůj názor. Může se hrát Aurora? Může. Nemá flashík.
As they're going for multiple plays now.
Caught out. That ulti not quite going to finish the job, but Alvaro and Supa able to get some work done in the bottom lane. Kani might be in trouble. Shockwave to lead the way to the answer. Forcing the dive.
Utreko ne, děkuji za 2 měsíce. Na Miko díky za gifted.
Able to hold on to his life, but I mean it's a good call out, right? And I think MDK always seem to find a slightly frustrating way for some fans to qualify to international champions. They're complaining about win rate, they complain about best of fives, complain about losing to EG, but they're not losing to anybody right now. They are smacking VKE around. We're going to have to see what they can do to bring themselves back in this game, because while some of the gold leads are manageable, Supa is getting very powerful very quickly.
Tyba, já chci hrát League of Legends. Já chci hrát League of Legends. Já když vidím League of Legends, tak já si ho pak chci zahrát. Ale vždycky je to stejný. Pak zjistím hodně rychle, že nechci. Se dám Q do solo Q, zjistím, že jsem Elohel Master West, nejhorší elo na planetě. Můj support si na levelu 2 rozhodne, že budu hrát 1v2 40 minut. Můj jungler neexistuje. A pak se mi najednou hrát nechce. Ale kámo, tohle získat v first turretu, to bude huge, jestli se jim to povede. Jo, je to free. To jsou dead. Jsou straight up dead, kámo. Jejda. On to posral. On neměl ult. Ale jako spadla first turreta, no. Jinx 2000 goldu advantage. Musel to smajtnout.
TLDR, Vikings is not in a good spot. Because I was like, wow, amazing, Jin lived.
Poslouchej poslední slova sama z Mafie, Solky je sračka. To by byl dobrý AI dono. Když by mi někdo udělal pomocí AI Samův hlas, a místo přátelství je sračka, aby tam bylo Solky je sračka, tak mu giftnu suba a dám to jako donate alert.
Shogun now at least getting a bit more wave clear here. Going to be able to match Supa a bit more. Supa doesn't know they're in the bush. Instant combo. That is a dead Jinx.
Shutdown product.
Probably didn't.
It wouldn't have mattered, I think. I think it's actually better that he didn't hit flash there, because how the ability to follow with
Za Suba, Resident Sleeper, tak co chce ten člověk, co to udělá?
Really big play for Vikings.
Může ten sub být uherná klidně.
Supa being respectful of it. That's the type of stuff that Vikings had in mind when they picked this team comp, the Jarvan Orianna especially, is how they want to be able to play this fight onto the Jinx Syndra, the 2 low mobility carries. Because the early game was so disastrous, it looked like this game was going to be a runaway, but the 2 kills they got in the bottom lane about 3 minutes ago, that pick, and, you know, Shogun not dying there when they killed the turret, are the things keeping them in this game.
Little victories. That's going to be what matters. All they can do to stay in this game as much as possible. You can see 9 turret plates to 2. Further indication of how far
5% z každého dona, kde bude ten alert. Takže vy jste nějaký businessmeni. To jste se naučili od Markusa Revolty nebo kde? Ten demolish na tom supportu je hrozně broken.
Very clearly favoring MDK as well as the gold. Almost 4K in their favor. Only 15 minutes in. It's a massive lead.
Yeah, 4K, 2,000 of it is Jinx over Jin.
Yeah.
So that's good, especially when their own Cassandra.
Pozor, lane economy snapshot.
They literally don't care about that. It would be mid bot that they care about the most. Alvaro, who cares about the 1,000 gold on the support, but he'll take it with how much plating and kills they've gotten early game.
Jednokové W, který nejde dodgenout. Půlka HP almost. Syndra našla Gina na rotaci, OK. Jaký Drift King, ty pičo. Ještě nokne syn Orianu. Ej, Alvaro! Dobrý stun. Ale za perma stun! A Elo je intue. OK, konečně ta ultimátka. Supa, go, flash. Supa, flash! Co dělá? Supa!
Oh man, I mean that play started with Frescawi
Dohrál moc safe.
On the Syndra, finishes his Ludens, has I think level 11 at the start of that play. So I'll have to check if he was 10 or 11. If he's 11, it's a big power spike for that ultimate. Otherwise, he's just fed out of his mind if he kills.
Já tady musím něco clearnout.
Two mid turrets with the Rift Herald once again. We'll see the very start of this play. Yes, he does at level 11. He camps in the bush. One shot Shogun. That's exactly what you want to do on Syndra, is look for a play as soon as you hit level 11. And then I was actually really surprised that Vikings even thought about fighting this 4 versus 5, but they do a pretty good job of nearly getting something. But when they don't have even Shockwave, very surprised they go for this fight.
Difficult for Guri. Frescawi left out to die there. Soup is immediately charging the Herald to try to survive any potential follow-up.
I mean, yeah, Supa didn't need to go into that Herald because there was no Orianna ult to follow up.
Co potřebuji dělat za alet? Mně by se líbilo, kdyby v AI někdo udělal Samův hlas z Mafie 1, jak říká přátelství je sračka, ale řekl by solo queue je sračka. Čau Narvíku.
Help keep himself alive a little bit longer, but for now, still working towards that Phantom Dancer.
And you know what, Dracos? I want to take something back that I said about 3 minutes ago. When we saw the 1,000 gold lead for Alvaro, and I said, who cares?
Yeah.
Actually, I think it actually does matter. The first support item, one locket versus no locket, is actually a really big difference. So if it was late game 1,000, who cares? But on this power spike, it's
Čus! Hej, Hexflash by měli vymazat ze hry, to bych. Hexflash je tak game breaking. Já se divím, že ten Hexflash je tak dlouho v té hře, kámo, to je jak Zonia. Když byla Zonia za runy, to bude tak strašně game breaking. Jak supporti nemají být turbo broken, když to může flashnout každých 10 vteřin přes zeď, vole. Flanknout to. Co to je za sračku?
Get this Renekton down, but with Kadi out of the picture, they don't really have good damage to punish the resources. MDK are committing onto that tankier target. Not away, double dash out to safety, trying to get a bit more space. Shogun at least getting one kill. Curtain call now coming out, has to be careful of El Yo-Yo. The spears are going to need to be body blocked. Asupa gets hit by one. Last bullet does not connect. Kadi finally here as the Banshees as well, but ultimately just kind of delaying what feels like an inevitable
Player AB, co to zkoušíš?
Good defense to stop that turret from going down. I had to check. Locket reduced 488 damage that fight, which, to be fair, is 488 damage more than the Alistar reduced.
Syndra Jing, 17 000 gold, snad to.
Score 1 for the Locket.
Why are you shaming this man for being broke? He's not supposed to have money, he's a support. You can't afford the nice things.
Nah, bro.
All over Shogun. I think we're going to see a lot more Syndra this tournament. He's having a heck of a game so far. Voidstaff second this game instead of the Storm Surge. A little bit interesting since there's not that much MR, but when you're this far ahead, who really does item police?
Anticipating perhaps future MR purchases, or at the very least the Verdant Barrier or Merc Treads from the side of VKE. VKE, the map getting smaller and smaller for them.
Je to rolling schedule, no, ten World. Takže jsem jak dlouho si myslíte, že bude pauzička mezi další sérií?
Baron hasn't even spawned yet. When it does, MDK can delete it pretty quickly, just given how
Dej
accelerated
si
that
daily quest říct víc jak 50 slov za hru, ale to já říkám. Teď jste mi nadávali, že furt japuju a že nezavřu hubu a že chcete slyšet kastry. Teď držím hubu a nadáváte mi, že zas nic neříkám. Tak shut the fuck up. Ej, ale co flashuje ten Mirvin? On flashuje úplný hovna. On reálně kdyby neměl Flash autism a Flash je úplný hovna, každou hru za toho Xante flashne úplný hovno, tak vždycky to vyhraje. Na botu toho Ezreala mohl zabít, tady mohl Jarvana zabít.
He's 0-4-1. He's just like, guys, I just want to participate in the game of League of Legends.
He's looking at everybody else. He's got a 5-1 Jinx, 3-0 Syndra, 2-1. He's like, guys. But he ends up making it worse. He forced it.
He's there for
Syndra zase vole, jde ukázat, že má velkýho pitíka proti AD carryčku. One-shotného, cápka. Čeká tam, tohle je Syndra Bush. Tady to je Syndra Bush, každý dobrý Syndra hráč tady campy.
They're most likely going to 2-0 this series with 2 Cassante games, so he's going to be undefeated on it. But he was 4,000 gold.
It's all about how you contextualize the stats, though.
It's true.
This is Mirwin's Worlds 2024, or could be undefeated Cassante.
Nemám to moc nahlas ty castry, by the way, když mluvím.
2 picks, 2 wins. You don't need to look at the replay. That's all you need. Mirwin.
Já trochu stlumím.
Doesn't have ult. Uses taxing.
Nemám.
But getting closer. Q3 ready to go. Supa spots Nano away crucially. Guri off to the side. Bit of a split.
Hele, Medlines, to za slow into. Dobrý.
On a killing spree, gets a reset, has to be careful about not walking into the choke. The ball will reset back.
Yeah, Q flash. Kamorele broken. Ty máš, já nechápu, ty musíš vzít cleanse proti Rel, ale ten cleanse stejně proti té Rel nefunguje. Prostě to je takový. Takhle měla vypadat jako první hra, jo, jenom abych řekl. Takhle měla vypadat první hra. A ta první hra byla 40-minutový close Gamas. A Xante.
His first penta on an international stage, unofficially, as the timer has expired, but they want to give it to him, but instead he will say no. You have not earned it. Not official.
I don't think they'll end on this push either, but they're going to be able to recall with a huge amount of gold. They will want to stop the objective bounty going over to Vikings, so there's a chance Elyoya does stay on the map here. But just watching this one more time, they need to stay connected. That's the biggest thing for them when they have this big of a lead. So Frescowi freely uses flash to get back to the team. And then the only thing they're looking out for here is Jarvan Orianna combo. So when both tanks basically move forward, there's no space that the Jarvan Orianna can actually reach to get onto the carry. So just a well-played front-to-back team fight. It's going to be a lot easier when you're this far ahead in gold and you can just flash forward freely, but still well-played. Crit at the end there to get the triple kill.
Yeah, very good. VKE, you can see, thought they had the angle, thought they had the setup. Now getting spotted, and MDK are just quick to collapse on the flanker, stop any potential.
Oh, the bounty!
The bounty will get claimed. The rocket finally connecting onto Guri, but will not end his life or take the objective as Frescowi on a side lane. Syndra not normally a side lane threat in the context of...
Vipo vyhraje World, to mě zajímá, Fleckles na World. Oni jsou dobří jako, ale problém, já mám takový tušák, protože já vím, jak Vipo a Inspired fungují na high pressure situacích a oni většinou to pak choukujou. Nebo ne choukujou, ale prostě jsou, vystresujou se moc. Nebo hrajou prostě trošičku hůř. Devět 1-1 Jinx, jo. Líbil se mi, že teďka jak je ten nerfnutý Last Whisper, ten Dominik, Lord Dominik, tak je vždycky lepší stavět tenhle item, by the way. 10 AD je prostě v podstatě nic a ten Executioner je good. A Supa běží, vole. Oni ho chytli, ale blokujou, jak všichni pro něj všechno blokujou. Okay. Nikdy jsem tě to neviděl stavět, by the way, já to stavím furt. Jhin je tak useless, kámo. Jhin je tak strašně useless, čau. To je prostě úplný vegan. Vegan AD carry, to nic nedělá, nemá to damage. Nejde za to dát carry. Ideálně musíš mít 5-0 nebo 6-0, abys vůbec měl impact.
Nothing really to be done. Mirwin covering any potential angle of attack for Guri. A lot of low health bars, but denying J4 access to the pit. Stops any potential for the steal. MDK walking away. They get the fight. They get the Baron. Their gold lead is 10,000. Set up to win this game. The next major push or objective.
Yeah. The only criticism I have for Alvaro is he's not contributing to the Rel Death Fund.
He's played a great series otherwise.
Ah, yes. Yes. I forgot the Jats pick'ems. He's doing well in the context of League of Legends, but as far as Jats pick'ems goes, he's really letting us down.
People picked Rel for most deaths.
To be honest,
Co jsem dal do Pickems jako nejvíc smrtí? Nautilus?
It's just who you think is going to be more prevalent.
Nebo Rel?
Yeah. I've just heard and been informed by production that our producers have picked Nautilus, so it's a bit divided here.
Fair enough.
Já mám pocit, že jsem picknul Nautilusa. Rel jsem picknul. Kurva.
Probably a safe call. VKE need a bit of a miracle here. In the face of a lock, in the face of defensive itemization now coming out, they might not even have enough damage to take down these isolated targets. Has to be a flawless engage from VKE just to buy themselves more time, more space in this game. You can see the ball.
Jako kluci musí engageovat, ale jako ten fight stejně nevyhrál, protože jako super nemá flash. Musí nějak engageovat na Jinx a one-shotnout z Oriana. Jarvan má flash, on by měl nějak jako reálně by měl flashnout na Jinx s bolem a zabít ji.
Single auto is really all it takes to slowly chip away at this objective. Luckily, the waves are not synced.
Yeah.
Or I believe the initial wave is deleted and then they're
Ale teďka bude mít flash za chůd Jinx. Jde to tady vidět, za jak dlouho má flash? Ne. 300 AD runes, stejný.
Immediately move in and take this tower, but Guri, you can see the poke of Italy is a big threat. And Supa now starting to threaten mid.
Ani engageou na Rel je betí. Teďka má flash, že jo, ta Jinx, takže už. Mirwin je hrozný inter. A Jinx zase nemá flash. Wow, on to miss. Wow. Wow. No nic, no nic, no nic. My region. My region. Okay, ale staré taky dead. To je jako reálně ještě, že... To nechci říkat, ale reálně. Ten Mad Lions je two-man team, tam je prostě Supa a Eloya a to jsou jediní dobří hráči. Mirwin je úplně dog shit a Fresh Cow je taky úplně dog shit.
Banshee's taken out, Supa likely to just be able to grab this objective. MDK much stronger in the 2v2. It's really only that tower keeping VKE safe, but they're going to hold. They're going to live to find another day. That should have been the end, but credit to VKE.
Alvaro hraje taky dost pěkně. No já jsem ještě neřekl Alvaro, že hraje dobře, protože hraje dobře tuhle sérii, ale vždycky, když hráli Mad Lions v Evropě, tak Alvaro byl 0-10 inter. A lámal si ruce. Okay. Flash, pick, boom. Okay. Co z toho můžou vzít? Nic.
The grand scheme of things, but a start for VKE to find their way back. Shogun can't afford to get caught here, though the movement speed enough to get him out.
Víš, co by mě teď zajímalo? Kolik Jhin musí dát autoteku do Xanteho, aby ho dal na půl HP? Bych typoval, tak on by musel, on má 4 shoty, že jo? On by musel podle mě reloadnout tak 4krát. Takže 16 shotů, aby vůbec dal Xantemu půl HP.
While you have Supa down, who cares about the Drake at the moment, since that's what Yoyo was taking down?
And I think the thing is, MDK, you're in a position to close this game out. You should be able to do so cleanly at this stage, right?
Má jak crazy je, že prostě Mad Lions jsou prostě 10k gold advantage v 25. minutě a potom hrajou proti druhému seedu z Vietnamu, a.k.a. fakt jako špatný tým a prostě mají problém close out hru.
They have Jarvan ult, they have Orianna ult, and Supa has no flash. Those three things could mean a comeback. There's about 9 or 10 things that mean
Banshees na Orianu.
Sure.
Oriana měla jet full damage, deathcap prostě třetí, místo Banshees. Protože oni reálně musí prostě one-shotnout Jinx. A to, že umře, to je jedno. Jarvan flash ult nebo combo ult na Jinx s bolem od Oriany a one-shotnout prostě s Renektonem. Renekton, Oriana, Jarvan vždycky one-shotnout Jinx, pokud to správně zahrajou. V čem je dobrý Jhin, že se hraje, má wave clear na midu a dává to snare XDD. To je všechno, co potřebuješ jako AD carry. Prostě jsi takový support, jakoby. Máš slow, engage, snare, wave clear. A do 16. 17. do 16. 17. levelu reálně jako nic moc neděláš.
Yeah, Mirwin's back here because if Jarvan tries to fly in, Mirwin can come from the backside. But if they engage on him fast, it could be trouble.
On ještě netrefil jedno dvojitý Včko a ten Jhin.
Single mistake, single misstep, one of the 9 or 10 reasons you were talking about, Jad. MDK have the gold advantage.
No, fakt jako reálně ani jednou jsem neviděl udělat to, že Jarvan, Renekton, Orianna dají Freeman all in na Jinx. Supa nemá flash a hodně overextenduje bez flashe proti Renektonovi, Jarvanovi, Orianně. Můžeš vždycky dostat Freeman bombo combo, ale prostě nic. On reálně i hituje Renektona prostě autoatakama. Damage. 30 000 damage Jinx. Wow! Ty pičo, real engage. Broken. Jak broken je real, kámo. Orianna ban, ok. Kalista ban. Wow.
Now, first pick for the side of PSG. What is their big priority?
I mean, Skarner's up. Apparently, it's just Jace.
Is it a flex? I mean, the thing about all these...
Se líbí ty vlasy, ty holky. Sorry, že jsem si zase všiml holky, ale měla pěkný vlasy. Měla to pěkně udělaný. Nemůžu nic. Skarner first pick. Co to je za emote gooning? Co to je za emote? Co je tohle za emote gooning?
In terms of the type of team comp you'd want to pick for him. He's a strong enough early game champion.
Yone! 1-2 Yone. Tak to je mid top flex, doufám, ne? Nepiknou jenom prostě Yone mid takhle blind.
Most contested champion of the world championship on their bingo cards because he was popping off towards the end of the LPL and the LCK playoffs.
Yeah, this is a champion that I think every single co-streamer, every single,
Yone Sejuani, boom.
has talked about is probably the best option, right? In a world where there are very few 80 options in mid lane, Yone just does so much for a team, synergizes incredibly well with the Sejuani pick as well. So the mid jungle duo, assuming this is a mid Yone, most likely option, I imagine, really set up here for success on the side of Pain Gaming.
Jako může dostřelit toho Yoneho na top lane nebo na mid lane.
You will see the odd top Yone, but you're absolutely right. It is most likely going to be a mid lane pick.
Skarner first pick, to je zgub, nebo co? Darius. Tak to by bylo po piči, kdyby tam loknul Darius, akorát, že by pak Yoneho dali na mid lane. Rumble, ok. A Jinx. Oni buffovali Jinx na Voros, to je takový divný, že buffovali Jinx na Voros. Hastive, ne, nemám díru v židli. Tristana. Aha. Aha. Mayplay je Tristana hráč, jo, kdyby náhodou. Oni peknou Jaxe do toho. A tohle se mi od PNG se mi líbí tenhle draft, že oni mají Jonáše, Jone do Tristany je v pohodě celkem, early game je trošku hard, ale jako potom je to v pohodě. A Jax do Rumbleho se Sejuani, mají double melee mid top se Sejuani. Varus ban. Teďka jediný co, tak by jim by se právě hodil třeba Varus, PNG. PNG potřebují range teďka na botu. Nějaký wave clear range. Excelový kód na KitKat, většinou buď to losujeme v Marbles, anebo přes Nightbota, anebo když si někdo tipne správně vítěze toho. Zik se potřebujou, Zik se bantnou. Je to vykřičník soutěž na ten KitKat, když tak. Kapesníku, ty máš zakázáno se účastnit jakékoliv soutěže ode mě, OK? Ty lakere jeden. Lucian?
Okay, we're gonna get
Lucian
Nami instead of engage support like Arel.
MF. MF moc jako není dobrá do Luciana zrovna, hej. Jako MF je dobrá do... Ani ne. MF rel je dobré kombo, no, ale... Co? Bych mi dal. Co tam zkoušíš? Woody! Oh. Lucian Nami? Lucian Nami je taky good, hej, s Collingem. Mají dobrý... Poppy? OK. Hovno, pěkný Nami a Nemel. Mají dobrý komp, PNG. PSG taky, ale...
See how aggressive Chitana Curry can be in this bottom lane 2v2.
I don't mind it actually in this case. I don't necessarily
Full
think
AD.
that Lucian Nami is suddenly going to become the
To
meta here
neřešíš.
at Worlds, but I just like their ability to have a little bit of
Nemyslím
extra
si, že je to
range
problém.
since everybody else on their team is so all in, and they have a fairly like self-sufficient range duo in the bot lane while everybody else needs to play
Rumble,
flank.
MF,
And then on the side,
Rel je combo s
PSG,
Skarnerem, no.
it is just a
To
really
bude
well-balanced
Skarner,
team also,
Rel,
so it very much looks
Rumble
like
bude
it
velký
has
problém pro
15,
Jaxe
16
Johnny,
team
ne, protože to
not
triple
necessarily
melee.
like a world's
Triple
team
melee
because all
do
these
prostě
champions
vombo combo je takový
easily
nebezpečný
see being
hodně.
played in their regional playoffs before the massive patches hit.
I think every single one of these champions, except for Skarner, was nerfed. Like,
Yes.
This is literally a draft from a different patch, and it might still function. But these are the champions that I think everyone expected to fall out of meta, right? MF took small hits. Bloodthirster was nerfed a bit, which was her best first item purchase.
Yeah.
There's so many little things
And
that
the
should
base AD.
dissuade this. Base AD as well. So it's a difficult position to be in if you're PSG, because this comp would have been stronger on previous patches, but it's also probably comfortable. You know exactly what you're getting out of this, and if comfort is what PSG want to go for, we'll just have to see if it works out.
One thing that I learned from this team, especially at MSI, is that if they are in an even game state, they have a very high chance of winning because their macro is very good. It feels world-class to me. I think a lot of that comes from Maple, World's experience from basically everyone on their team as well. So they are just a very strong mid to late game team, and I think playing comfort in game one is a very respectable decision.
Definitely is. Of course, for this game, they're also not really showing us anything new. Showing us something old in the context of a meta that has changed so much, at least shows that they're willing to play it, but perhaps there's even more waiting in their back pocket, depending on how this game one plays out. As Jinja Karaoke trading blows in the jungle. Well, not actually hitting each other, but at least fishing, looking for an angle. Surprisingly active level ones in this first day of plans.
And I think we might see fairly active level ones throughout the World Championship because you need to get information if lane swaps are on the table. So wherever you have a stronger, 1v1, 2v2, being able to push someone back and get a deep ward to actually scout the jungle is very important. So they're kind of thinking about getting that ward down, and that was a mistake because they've given away early vision and a cheeky little CS on
Tak si ohřívám
That's
jídlo.
10 gold right there.
Well, it's a hair of experience as well. Yeah, so Jackson and Yone both got 1/3 of the ward's
spravím
experience in that
kameru.
as well, which might be an earlier level 2. I'm not completely polished on how that.
Tak oni zabili Vardu nějakou?
The third of a ward,
On
yeah.
like a third of a ward.
I
Like,
know
is
what
that
the
enough
ward.
to hit level 2 early?
Yeah, I know the ward, but the third of a ward is where I get a little
Basically,
lost.
every pro player in the world knows this, but currently I don't. So please tweet me or something. I want to know.
Yeah, good call out. Someone else will probably know it too. Jinkato. Gonna
And
get
he
pushed
gets
back
pushed
here
anyway, so it doesn't
in the
matter.
first levels. Yeah, one of the big things to note is there's no fleet on the side of Maple. Fleet obviously hit for range champions by pretty decent margins. Absorb life also
Maple hraje
two
press
nerfs
the attack.
designed to get 80 carries out of the mid lane,
Okay.
take away some of that safety that they were kind of guaranteed from runes overall.
Yeah, I love this triple lane.
Jsem
camp.
zvědavý na toho
If
Jaxe,
anyone
kámo, na to
decides
jsem
to get a
hodně
little bit
zvědavý.
aggressive, I want to also see how well Maple can stay pushed in this lane because this is kind of why he would have picked the Tristana. He's going to like this matchup, I think, into the Yone. And then also just how does
Gamba. Čili si chcete gambu, tak dejte vykřičí to točka.
Lucianami's not that big of a
Máte
menace
tam
at, like,
ceny,
level
co jsou v
1. It's
točce.
more about once they get a few items and a few levels under their belt.
Yeah, and MF very
Každý
strong early on,
kilečko,
obviously
každý
kill pressure
kilečko
can go
je
for
jeden
it as well,
ticket do
something that has to be
točky.
respected. Part of the reason you're seeing defensive songs come out from Curry, right?
Je
It's
tam
this
podepsaný
key
Fanatic
to
dress,
something
nepodepsaný
one thing.
Fanatic
They know that they
dress,
don't have kill pressure. They know once they get that
Worlds
first
Collector
support
Edition,
organization, or even just a few more
RPčka,
levels, they'll be a bit better equipped to trade, but early on, and then
VIP
rush
badge.
straight into the lane against, backed up by some CC. Only making it worse is PSG getting this initial push out, and for now things relatively quiet. Obviously no super fast clearing junglers like the Nidalee, so for now both junglers kind of on even pace.
I mean, in retrospect, we were spoiled by the lane swaps in the first series because they generated action non-stop.
That's true. People were fighting at like level 1 and 2 outside of lanes in random jungles, Jet.
Now it's just standard lanes again, full clear into... Well, it's interesting that the junglers are on the same side of the map for a crab. And wow, they would have doped this if he didn't ward and was unaware, I think.
Okay, PSG, thank you production, 100% on all 5 of these champions through summer.
100% win rate.
100% win rate, I believe. Yeah, so...
They didn't lose many games for what it's worth. They have one of the highest...
They're very dominant, right?
If you look at the global power rankings like website, I think they have either one of the highest or the highest win rates of any team globally. Like they were so dominant in their actual region. Them and Gen G are going to be like the 2 teams with the highest win percentage throughout all of the year.
Look, both of them probably ready to take on PLG, so makes sense to me.
Já borce, až budu mít super nápad bulkovat, tak mi vysvětlete, že to není super nápad, jo? Tohle je Tohle je moje rýže a hovězí maso, jo? Jenom byste věděli. Prostě mám vle 800 nebo prostě 400 gramů rýže, 250 gramů hovězího masa a zelenina.
Usually you'd go for a reset here, but getting a little poke off as well. Maybe he wants to keep the Jackson lane. I mean, Weiser's already based and came back, whereas Aja's still sitting on his starter arms. Hasn't even had to use a health potion yet.
Weiser's still with TP though. I would imagine he got the cheater recall off. Hard to say for certain, but definitely needs to respect the potential for Sejuani to get involved here.
To se ani prostě nevleze do toho mého talířku. A já to pak musím, vole, jíst opatrně, abych to ne...
Good ward though.
Fortification falling off at 5 minutes. Spotting Lucian is big. Now that the swap has come through, immediately PSG can respond the wave in a relatively neutral state. As Aja's going to grab one more creep. Might just reset here as the TP already coming bot lane. And doing what they can to try to fight for a bit of a tempo advantage, but with both bottom lanes on the top side of the map, I imagine we'll have a bit of a scrap for Grubs. PNG right now ahead on tempo overall.
Yep. Aja... The one nice thing there was the ward spotting Lucian early did allow them to react a bit earlier, but really curious to see now what happens with this grub spawn in about 30 seconds. If Lucian hold the prio, it would definitely
když dáš kilečko do noha, tak jsi v točce za 1 tiket. Když dáš 2 kilečka, tak jsi 2 tikety.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maple pushing in this mid wave, likely to give him first move, although with level 6 there, Jinkato certainly has a bit more kill pressure. And kind of when the bot lane swaps come out, I expected the junglers to stick around here to contest Grubs, but it seems instead much more focused on that top lane 1v1, at least briefly, is now 2 seconds before the spawn comes out. Junja is on the way up. They don't really have Prio on the bottom side, and they just now fighting for Prio on the top side, so they should be able to start this, but it won't be, free and easy. There is room for pain damage contest here.
Yeah, there is also a teleport available for Aja. He held it, so this is fairly free, and that's why I think Payne said, we're not messing with that. We're just going to take the Drake and be completely happy with this trade.
That said, giving, any grubs to a Tristana, even a nerfed Tristana, always can be a bit of a difficult prospect as safe champion on side lane, can accrue those gold leads really rapidly, take through or shred through plates if given the chance. MF not the best tower taker. It's not a Jinx, so you're not as worried about the bot laner like our last series. But ward cleared out there, and you're gonna have to be really careful about approaching this tower.
Yeah, so it's likely at least 5 minions that are going to be denied. There's no one on with teleport up that can actually catch this wave. It's going to be a plate for them as well. So just very small, low-risk advantages being accumulated for PSG as of now. This whole draft, early game approach, the way they're playing is very low risk so far, yet still very effective for PSG.
Yeah, but it's crazy that they've... Oh, Jinja forced a flash.
It's okay.
To si děláš prdel?
Addicted Lord donate 100 korun
Addicted
českých.
Lord posílá kilečko na točku, to je fitting name, kamo. Fitting name pro Gamba.
Hugely advantageous play, and else they can also get a follow-up somewhere else.
Dinosaur.
SEL3NCE420 donate 300 korun českých. Gamba Gamba.
Gamba.
PSG big gold lead because Tristana on side lane just prints money.
Yeah, well, Also,
Jo, to jsem
just
myslel,
based
jo,
off
chápu,
of
chápu.
some of the games that I've seen from PSG, because of how good their macro can be, is
Prostě líp
even if
lází
it
to,
feels
hej?
like we're going to be
PNG.
building up to this crescendo in this game, like, oh man, they're stacking Drakes, there are 2 Drakes, soul points coming up soon, and you're waiting for that climactic fight. Like a lot of times, so Maple just pushes Yone back. A lot of times they'll just like get a pick on the side lane, and then you won't even see the climactic fight. Like, that kind of feels like, yeah, I know it's really early.
NAMIKA37 donate 200 korun českých. Gimti kids.
All right, we'll see if we get climactic 5v5 or random pick on side lane. Those are the 2 potential options.
Kámo, tenhle alert ne!
Yeah, I mean, last game wasn't random pick on side lane, but it was not full 5v5s most of the time. It was single picks to start things off. Ninja. Trying to stop the wave.
Namiko, díky za 2 kila.
I think he has kill
Děkuji za
pressure
ty
here,
točky,
but
pánové.
Just
A
making
sleční
sure he
dres
has
tam
to
nějaká
recall,
je.
and he's also holding the wave from Maple. Good little Skarner things, building a small advantage on the Sejuani with his power farming so far. Delayed the recall just a hair, but probably going to mean 1 plate for the Trist. Again, just another really small thing, but that would increase their gold lead by 20%, 200 more gold, and just slowly move them up towards victory.
Najo pushing the wave in. Does he just walk ahead to proxy the next one? Does see the control ward there, but just opts to walk away.
Dive! Jak po
Ulti
piči
makes
je?
this a little bit difficult.
Že Tristana bude flash.
Oh man,
What the fuck, teď je dead.
I love that move.
Co to udělal, ten žák? On to mohl přežít. A proč neultil Maple? Maple nemá ult? Halo?
Baits Ajin to thinking he's going for the mid laner and instead jumps back to safety.
Okay, really nice play by Weiser there. Stalls it. This gives Pain time for a play on the bot side. Yone thinking about moving down. It would be a 4-for-3 dive.
Not
On
confident.
asi nemá ult, ne? Ale i tak byl dead. Já nechápu, proč třeba nedal ještě jeden ultek.
A little bit late on the rotation, I think it's safe to say. Stops the play from taking place, but Betty gonna step up anyway. Root hits. Sejuani not gonna be leveraged. Junja in the area, slow coming in from that make it rain. So frustrating for PNG to deal with.
Neměl ult.
Yeah, just gonna have
Ale i tak ho mohl
to
zabít.
reset after that play. Maple lost a little bit
Ono je
of
to
tempo in the
ult
mid lane,
CD na
will
těch
likely lose that plate
ultimátkách
right there
je
as the
špatně
cannon
vidět.
does the last hit on it, and that roam, the failure to get the kill really brings back about 400 to 500 gold overall to Pain's deficit. So Maple tried to push the tempo. Can't do that. Just keep farming the waves and getting plates in their own lane, apparently. I like the look, though. Just couldn't execute.
Yeah, didn't find the angle. Betty, Maple, both of the calls, of course, getting a bit of extra money on top of slight advantages in CS, at least for Betty. Maple falling a little bit behind. That time he spent topside, as you highlighted.
6 scrubs. Might be 6 scrubs.
Is big and Pain
To
behind the
musí
play
fightit.
a little bit.
PNG to musí fightit, 6 grabuje huge a i 5 grabuje huge.
Maple has TP to respond if he wants to.
Oni to nefight, proč nevzali ty graby? Oni to ani nekontestili PNG. Halo? Takže stačilo prostě
I wish I could just fucking flame people! Riot! Sunflowers! Rainbows!
Rocket donate 555 korun českých.
Wild Cash se mi tady
Doufám, že
spavnul.
něco padne.
Where PSG decided to engage, couldn't finish it.
Roketek, děkuji za 555.
To
Tak kdybys tam dal... Jo, seš top dono teďka, seš top dono. Nice! Děkuji za cashu, šéfe.
Really started Weiser
Golo,
being able
golo,
to push out the
flexa.
bottom wave. TP's top, now gets that wave as well.
Yeah.
So the Jack's getting accelerated in this game despite not being involved in the play.
So Sejuani flashes out early from the damage, and then Yone's counter engage.
Teď jsem viděl, co udělal Maple. Viděli jste to?
And if you can actually get into a team fight, as we see a shot from Brazil, I believe.
Kamo, přijel celý autobus Brazilčanů, ne?
Have the advantage in this game right now.
Do toho
They
studia.
need to have those fights where they're just kind of in it. With the double melee soul lane plus Sejuani, it's a lot of flanking and hard engage that needs to happen for these fights to work, and they had it working in that
Ale
fight.
spíš
And always nice when you pick a champion like the Jax to see him find that gold leech, TP in, get that kill.
Nevím, skill matchup.
CS in
Přijde
the
mi to, že
meantime.
50-50
They're
legend.
ultimately not able to find a super effective Rumble ult in the context of that fight. As he gets closer to level 11, that might change as he starts to get closer to finishing that item as well. Leander's, of course, important. PSG, they've already got 5 grubs now. at least showing presence around the Drake.
Čet mě
But of course,
svědí
there's
nosek
no
blázen.
waves here yet. Both waves in a neutral state, mid and bot lane. So PNG with better vision setup, with more members in the area, are free to start the objective.
I think they're just going to get it. Misfortune and
Nepřivezla je
Tristana
loď,
are
pak
too far away,
kamion,
so that
protože to
second
nejsou
Drake
utečenci.
already secured for Pain. And in terms of first 13 minutes of the game, they're going to
Čau,
take these
cvoken.
when you consider PSG is one of, if not the strongest rated teams.
Bez kokainu. Ne, jsem měl moc dlouhý chlupy v nose, tak jsem si to oholil. Nebo
they won
zasekl.
one game at MSI against a depleted GAM team. They were winless at last year's World Championship, so kind of anything.
Když jsi opice, jak já, gorila úplnej, vole, 200 kilo čistých svalů, tak bohužel máš i chlupy všude. To dělá vysoký testosteron samozřejmě. A pak máš chlupy na prdeli i v nose prostě. A ty chlupy ti rostou z toho nosu a ty to musíš zastřihávat.
Pain Gaming first chance in a long time to represent here, and thus far not too bad, despite initially looking like a game where PSG was going to be able to
nose je nezdravý, může se poškodit mozek.
Yeah, we'll see with plates going down now how much the game opens up and whether they're able to actually make the correct roams. Because the trick here now, especially once you start seeing some outer turrets going down, is how well you can make your rotations to pull off plays on side lane. But they could maybe go
Já vím, že když nemáš si dloubat rukou v nose, že si zanášíš bakterie do sliznice a je to strašně blízko k mozku, takže to jako je škodlivý mozku. A o zastřihávání s tím poprvé.
Obviously nerfed Kraken. Kraken's been nerfed for quite some time. Was even nerfed on the playoffs.
No.
Champions still building it.
I like the Heartsteel Skarner against the 3 melee champions as well. You can
Put down
have
that
the
bench. Maximum kilo.
more team focused, not Heartsteel Skarner. Geez, I forget the name of the item. The Sejuani has it.
Instantly gonna see that ult. It's a quick pick. As we look away for about a moment, Betty's ult not able to do enough work as Chitani Curry quick to clean up that kill. These Sejuani ults are really connecting.
Apologies there, looking at item names when there was a fight happening, but that's another
It was a second. It was a second of fight.
Should have seen it coming
out
They
of
could be
nowhere.
going for more here.
Junja just trying to walk the wall there, but be all right. And again, these little picks starting to pay off. Still gold leads everywhere but top lane for the side of PSG support. I'm just going to say is not significant, but I think more and more pressure on the Wiser to do some work on this Jax. You can see him just going into Aja, has that Trinity Force.
Kdo vyhraje podle vás? Na koho jste si sadili?
And as the game progresses, if you're able to keep your CS up on Jax and not be forced to overgroup, you can start beating that Rumble and also the Tristana in side lane. So Wiser can absolutely be a force. It's just really tricky to be able to do that against really competent teams who can have snap engages on the rest of your team or get mid push and then threaten you on side lane. So basically, I think a lot of this game will be decided on the margins, like can Lucian Nami hold mid wave while the Jax is split pushing, and can Pain make plays after they have mid push and move?
I also want to see how much they can get out of the Skarner, because one of the things this Sejuani does really well is instantaneous engages. It's always a bit more of a delay for Skarner, he's not going to flash in.
Podle resta se udává, podle kluku na patě
Knock
máš
the wall,
mám
sends the
klupy.
projectile through, but not himself, so doesn't really risk much of anything.
And Jax
Tady
free hitting
mám
on mid
klupy.
turret here right now, so pretty nice. When they have the
Já ti
4v4,
říkám, že
they're
jsem
the ones
opice.
getting free time on turret. Rumble was too afraid to free hit the top lane turret because he was
Ten
worried
Jax
about
bude
Ash
huge,
coming
by
down
the
for
way.
a fight. So little bits of turret damage.
Jax bude hrozně huge za
Teleport
chůl.
top lane and maybe
Ale problém je, že mají docela
well.
dost CC. Real CC, Skarner
Though, It's
CC.
going to be very difficult for Wiser to hold. And the tower down top lane as well. Maple there to pick up that money, and PSG going to grab 2 towers.
2 turety za jednu. Ajajajajaj.
So a bit of an awkward exchange overall. 1.5k gold
Se
lead
oznámilo,
now
že
for
Worlds
the side of
finále
PSG.
bude
They
v
obviously take
kinech.
towers much faster, and with the Tristana on side lane with 5 grubs,
Yeah.
you can see how quickly that tier 2 is going to fall.
Really nice teleport there by Maple. Even though they weren't the first ones on the turret, they had a bigger wave and they crashed 1.5 turrets top lane as well as killing the mid lane turret. I think a small mistake there by Pain, resetting basically everyone from the bottom lane instead of moving it up towards the mid lane, because that would have likely meant they could defend the mid turret and then probably take the mid turret as well. But let's see if they can get this on the bounce back.
Cinema City v Brně, ne, kde to je? Bude mít Worlds Viewing Party.
Red buff and the BT shield
Let's go.
allows them to safety to just walk up, clear this wave. Pain Gaming hovering to the bottom side. They've already got 2 Drakes.
Délka filmu 420 minut. To je jaký kec, ne? Ale to není real, ne?
Again, not afraid to just use their man advantage, walk in, fight for that vision. They saw Maple bot, they see Aja top, they know they're favored.
Proč by tam dali 420 minut? Jako na meme, jo, nebo? For 20 low.
Soul point fight, so it's very crucial for the overall outcome of this game how well PSG can clear out this mid wave and approach. Getting that control ward is really crucial. They control this bush and river because it means Pain doesn't have a great way to flank, especially that control ward up towards the red buff as well. That's where
a to může být mega popičik se koukat v kyně na League of Legends finále. Co ti jebe?
Have they marked the ward in the brush? Looks like the answer is yes. Hovering off the side.
Pozor.
Rumble now coming in. Objective Jin Kato immediately going to try to kick things off. A lot of burst used.
Skarner to naintil, šel moc brzo in. To je free drag a měl by give up no PSG. PSG mě by měli give up no pryč. Junja to naintil.
Can only push it out and walk away. Patience, discipline coming in from Pain Gaming, that exchange.
Still deathless, 19 minutes into their first Worlds game against the #1 seed in the PCS. Really love the patience that Pain is playing with. There definitely a few moments where maybe they're giving away a little bit too much charcoal, but getting 3 Drakes only 19 minutes in, and then also getting enough damage down onto Skarner that he's unwilling to actually go in with the rest of the team. They're putting on a pretty great showing for Game 1 here at Worlds.
Definitely are. And you talked about, hey, the hard steel feels so good against these 3 melee champions, but Junja's just not getting any stacks. He can't get into a fight. They're not scrapping at all. So an item that he purchased early, he prioritized, while we'll still give that little bit of burst, he's not getting that additional value of the scaling HP. And we'll see if that hurts him in the fights, because Jax just continues to scale up. Cheetan getting stronger, Jin Kato with the Blade of the Rune King, which is so good on these melee champions, means a lot of these tankier health bars, Woody and Junja especially, aren't going to be nearly as effective as they might have been against different opposition.
Yeah, and you can see this is Pain Gaming's year-long chart, essentially, improving throughout the year, nearly winning the spring playoffs, getting just over the edge in the summer playoffs, even though they weren't the #1 team in the regular season. And I think once the Stride Breaker gets completed by the Yone as well, like that's when he really turns on, and if he ever gets on to Misfortune or Tristana, can really do a lot of damage. But until then, they just need to keep holding sideways with Jax, not getting picked off in the mid game here, and just waiting this 3.5 minutes until they can potentially get Infernal Soul.
There's no pressure on them to do anything too crazy, right? But I will say, I watched a lot of Pain Gaming. Sometimes they go for the aggressive play. I've watched them 50-50 a Baron when they were already winning somewhere else on the map, and it worked for them. But that didn't make it right, Jet. So I'm a little nervous.
Ještě se z toho nechce. Já se toho vždycky přejím, ale já to mám. Moje síla, jak tomu, willpower, je šestý. Síla vůle. Je willpower. Je 10 z 10, takže já to prostě žeru skrze na sílu.
Jax is not pushing anywhere, so they're really hard committing onto this mid lane, and it just gets cleared away by an MF ult.
Might see the pick though.
Okay. Sejuani, jo ne, nehejbej se.
Forced to flash out. It's going to make any potential contest of the next objective that much harder. Skarner, of course, can go through the wall, but Flash the most reliable way to get into the pit, whether it's Dragon or Baron.
Yeah, especially needing maybe a Flash to flip
Síla modrých koulí,
so cost Pain 2 ultimates. It's not like PSG is setting anywhere else on the map up where they can fight. So Pain isn't worried about those 2 ultimates whatsoever. They're gonna be back fairly quickly as everyone resets after that play.
Visor just keeps getting scarier and scarier. This is not...
No, this isn't what I expected. I feel like we had all that time to set the expectations about PSG being, you know, maybe the best team in play-in.
Woody, history.
The global power rankings, 12 years at Worlds.
But that's the thing I love about Worlds is sometimes, you know, you DRX it. No one expects it, and you just show up and you start kicking people around.
To je cool.
PSG is like 2,000 gold up.
But it doesn't feel like they're winning the game, which is crazy.
Because they have no kills.
LG King budí za 9.
But it's still weird.
Madlands 2-0. Ale bylo to close první half.
Maybe since these second item spikes are coming through, they're feeling more confident to start to fish for these plays. And they are powerful. They just have yet to find that circumstance where they can really leverage their advantage. Initial pick onto Junja. They know that he has no flash.
Skarner má ninja taby nebo Mercury? Dobrý flash od Titana. What the fuck actually? Ten Lucian flash byl insane. Oh můj bože. Ty pičo, dobrý Lucian flash. Ty vole, to bylo dobré. Dobře zahrané, hodně dobře zahrané. Ten Junjia to hrozně intuje, tak on si myslí, že je tanky, ale není. Ale za chvilku, za 40 vteřin ještě jsou. Sleduj, co dělal Lucian. To je crazy good. Scanner bude tanky potom za chvíli, ale ještě furt moc brzo. Jako on je tanky, ale on prostě vždycky jde hrozně front. Ty pičo, jaký flash. Ty vole. MF ult? Mám pocit, že MF ultila, ne? Nějakou vlnu nebo něco. Kolik je tam těch Brazilců? Proč dal flash? Protože Rumble ult by mu přišla na hlavu a MF damage a tak, on by umřel, kdyby neflashnul tu rau. Ty vole, Lucian to smurfí. Ty píčo. Ten Titan je Korejec, ne? Nebo? A, mají to. A čus, utíkaj. Jax to trochu naintil. Real má flash? Nemá flash, dobré. Okay, to by mělo být chill. Ty pičo, let's go. Mé. Je. O, mysnul to, škoda. A že by to bylo upset? Hra pro PNG? Ještě ne, jako měla by být, ale. Wow. Hej, ten Lucian smurfí! PSG se hrozně bojí. Lucian nemá flash.
To si děláš prdel?
Jo, díky za kilečko. A zatím ještě jsem...
korun český. Ahoj Aleši, kdy bude další coaching za top donáte?
Co dělá Jax? Dostane Tristana ultovej. Tady budou chaseovat. Jax to vychaseuje s tou Sejuani. 3-0-4 Lucian. Jsem nečekal upřímně. A díky za kilečko mi osadí, vítej co chce. Titan je Brazilec, já jsem si myslel, no, že to je Brazilec, nebo jako, když tam dávali to video, tak Titan byl Brazilec. Mira de Masin, Inspira, děkuji za ty rýčku, děkuji. Já už nemůžu s ní stojít dlouhej.
In control of this game. I mean, Jax having second item right now is so impactful for the fight. He's not going to go down quickly. He's going to force an ult out of Maple to keep the backline safe. It's really for the side of PSG. We talked about if it was going to be team fight or random pick in the side lane. The answer is neither. It's going to be PSG in total control, Jack. And right now, Benny's
počkej, co teď staví pickaxe tady tohle, co to je? Co staví ten Skarner? Proč to zase intuje? On staví sterak na Skarnera.
PSG just can't fight back. Payne's been completely relentless. Tristana was pushing mid. There's no one that's able to re-engage to help the Skarner. And now they're on Baron with no smite. They could finish or they could peel early.
Frozen Heart? Halo? To se staví? To já chápu, že se staví, ale ne tuhle hru.
Oh jeez.
Ježíš, co je? XD! XD! Ty pičo, XD, Sejuani! Sejuani mluví! O můj bože! Ty pičo, let's go! Let's go! Ej! Vole, let's go, tohle jsme chtěli. Dívej, takový ten western movie, vole, všichni tam stojí a připravení střílet, protože nemají smite, nic. A Sejuani, sleduj, Sejuani hape. Ona nemá smite, Sejuani. Sleduj. Sleduj HP Sejuani. Má 1 HP. A teď Lucian prostě tam posmurfí. Bum. Tohle je 14-18 patch, to není 14-19. Piča, on se zvednul. Co ti jebe, let's go, jak v CSku. Dobrý, jsem hypnutý, jdu si dát další jídlo.
On this Lucian in game 1. They do need to close this game out. They would then also need to beat them again.
But remember that while this composition from the side of PSG feels a little bit outdated in the context of the patch notes.
Absolutely.
They're undefeated on it domestically. This is the definition of comfort. And yet this entire game has not looked comfortable for PSG outside of the first 5 minutes. Credit to Pain Gaming. Look at that win probability. It's not 100.
Musíš být hype, aby si dal jídlo. Nemusím být hype, abych do sebe nastal další 3 lžičky rýže a hovězího. Jinak se pobliju. Protože reálně teďka jim přes 400 gramů rýže a 250 gramů hovězího. A ještě nějakých 150 gramů zeleniny. Nevím, jestli to dokážeš představit, ale to je prostě kilo jídla. Má to 1200 kalorií.
Luxury that a Sejuani does, the ulti not as reliable, the CC not as reliable. Feels so bad to fall behind as this champion, and now he's just sitting there getting poked. He can't do anything about Cheeton just walking up and hitting him. Now Karab looking to get things started. Ulti coming out from the MF, but Jinkato just goes in, disrupts the play.
Okay, Jax needs to crash the mid turret as well, but it's fine. The cannon minion is still just slowly chipping away on that tier 2 turret. Gold lead is extending. I mean, at this point, Pain just need to be patient as they have been throughout this entire game. The Lucian has enough range that he can kill these turrets. The Baron is going to help them extend their gold lead. It's probably going to end up going to Elder just because they are generally a short-range team that needs the other team to walk out so they can engage.
Miro, přeji hezký den, já tobě taky,
Zinfira
vítej v
donate
točce,
100
bráško.
korun českých, přeji hezký den.
Jo, děkuju za kilečko, vítej v točce. Subíček, ještě k tomu, kilečko na točku, no to je nádhera. W divák.
Elder is the great equalizer, and as much as you can have a 10k gold lead, if someone steals an Elder with 4 members on their team still alive, that team fight gets a lot more even.
And here we go. I think they're going to fight before Elder.
Junja.
Okay, Junja zase in.
Kámo.
Já jsem řekl, že Junja je good a potom Junja prostě 5krát na po sobě na NT každou situaci.
The Jax is damn powerful, but this is a confident move. Cheeton goes in! 1-2 punch there. 80 carry and top lane together. Betty, there's just nothing they can do. Maple down for the count. Pain Gaming.
0-5-0 Skarner. Zgube, jsi to ty, zgube! Ty vole, hele, tohle ale... Tohle je... Upset. Babiček! 3 točky! 3 kilečka, let's go! Ash, Maokai, Syndra, Kalista. Borci, abyste si koupili Worlds ticket nebo jakýkoliv ticket na cokoliv v dnešní době, tak si musíte zaplatit nějakého AI bota, který ten lístek koupí 0,01 vteřiny po tom, co ty lístky jsou available. Jinak to nikdy nekoupíte. Protože to tak dělají reselleři, že oni mají prostě naprogramovaný boty, aby koupili co nejvíc lístků, aby je pak prodali za dvojnásob. Je to legit scam as fuck a měli by ty stránky proti tomu nějak banovat, ale, nebo jako fungovat, ale Hell, Lucian není ban? Sejuani je ban.
To si děláš prdel?
Sprinky lol donate 100 korun českých. Stačí 1 hra, myslím. Moje jimit hrajou normálně v placementech.
OK, stačí jedna hra. OK, Springy, můžeme pak dát duo. Já ti dám dvě duo hry a podle jestli mě to budeš intit, tak čus. Scanner first pick. Pane bože, pane bože. Proč to mi to dělají? Scanner first pick.
With Vi, you can go with the power
Jarvan
farmer.
is on paper good, right? Like, obviously it depends. You highlighted it very well in our first series on, you don't want to pick Jarvan too early because he's dependent on the enemy.
Jones teďka Sejuani, Jone Lilia, vymění Sejuani za Liliu, v pohodě úplně.
Which is a very unique read, unique to PSG. We'll see if any other teams have the same opinion, but I mean, it was banned in our first series, and is very high.
Sprinky Roll donate 67 korun českých. Zaokrouhlíme to na litr a pak bude ban nebo jak?
No podle toho, jak budeš hrát Springy.
Even just between the two series, because
pak budou buď další dua, nebo nebudou další dua. Díky za lítě, šéfe, máš 10 tiketů do točky. Rumble jo ne. To je, ten Rumble se mi nelíbí jako na tom 1-2, protože hned ukazují, že to je Jone to mid a Rumble top. Tím pádem teďka můžou piknout Akali třeba do Jone. Jo, že jakože prostě můžou piknout, hned ví, co mají pikovat do Rumbleho a do Jone, není tam ten flex pick. Že tady teďka prostě piknou Gnara a Akali podle nich jako dobrý piky do Jonáše, do Rumbleho, s čímž já souhlasím. Jsou to dobrý piky do Rumbleho a do Jonáše. A podle mě měli piknout tu Liliu a prostě nechat si ten flex, víš? Tohle fakt posrali, to je fakt divný. Viděl jsi Agrelus story? Neviděl. Co tam dělá?
So jungle and both solo lanes locked in early in this one, and I mean, Dracos, this is not what I expected. I was thinking mages. We're gonna see Syndra, Orianna, maybe some Ahri, not just like Yone Akali.
Co udělal Vojtíšek na Instagramu? Podíváme se.
They bought some of their numbers. It's just not enough.
But it's not like Akali's shown her face for months.
Crown for the King. Jsem jediný, kdo už delší dobu nehrál okolo, vždy má strašnou chuť si zahrát, když je období Worlds, otazník. Ne, rozhodně to tak není. GG, tak to ne. On se rozešel zase. Fair. Teď otázka, udělal to kvůli Foxové, anebo kvůli Lolečku a Tygří košili? To je kurva moje otázka na Vojtu. OK, baníky, Lucian ban, 4-5, to jsme čekali, ale Starban. Oni chcou podpiknout Rel, 4-5, že ban zanovaný Alistara, ale nechápu, proč nepiknou Rel. Proč PNG nepikne Rel na 4, hej? Kdyby oni pikli Rel tady na 4, tak vyhráli ten 4-5. Tady teďka piknou MF Rel zase a mají to docela v poho. Ale tady jako Jonáš, Rumble, Vi, to je dobrý kombo, Ezreal k tomu.
It's hard. Yeah, I was gonna say that's not a good MF angle. There's no one to set up the misfortune other than like a really crazy lucky Gnar ultimate.
Kámo, proč v ten moment nehraje Sivir prostě? Já nechápu, proč lidi hrajou Jina. Hrej Sivir v ten moment, reálně. Wave clear, movement speed, spell shield.
Which is when Jhin becomes a really good pick, so I do actually really like that they pivoted there from MF to Jhin.
It also frees up Maple and Aja to just get aggressive, get in the fight if they need to, right? Jhin can kind of be left on the back line, doesn't have to worry about too much. But if this Bard does get locked in, will really
Bard 2, já nevím, já nechápu vždycky. To i ty van dělali, že prostě pikovali Barda s full engage kompem a ono je to takové sus. Ezreal Brown?
It's locked in, so it better be for Pain.
Kámo, proč tam prostě nepikli Nautiluse nebo něco? Nevím, oni ví něco, co já nevím. Oni prostě ví něco, co já nevím. Bohužel. To 4-5 je mega weird. Tady prostě měli piknout Rel, měli by Rel Rumble, Vajone, to je to jsou 4 čampové, co mají nejlepší synergii spolu. Reálně by vyhráli draft, oni místo toho piknou Ezreala, nechají jim tu Rel, když tady zabanovali Alistára. Oni vemou Jhin Rel, whatever, to je v pohodě, a oni pak vemou Brauma do Rel. Prostě, halo.
It's not a graphical bug you see on your screen if you're just joining us. That is 1 win for Pain and 0 wins for PSG, which I really didn't expect.
That person has a sign. That person expected it.
I mean, the CB Lol was winless last year at Worlds and was 1-4 before being eliminated.
Čekáš tuhle mapu hodně kill nebo ne? Potřebuji cinkačku.
I can't hear them, but I know that they're out there.
They said, hey,
we were in finals, we could have been there, we could have made the difference. Now we're showing you that the difference was the team, not the region.
And I absolutely love their fans and
si tam dává popcornos,
frajeros. Their team, no matter what, still showing out year after year, game after game, and they can pull it off here to complete the sweep against PSG if they execute well, because I think the Yone.
Oni jsou pro hráči, vědí a čo robí a možno XD.
It feels like this is just a really odd meta read from PSG. Game 1 they play nothing but nerf champions that they had played throughout all of Summer Split, and then here in Game 2 the Akali Gnar, you really have to get ahead in your soul lanes if you want to play macro, and if they fall behind, their teamfight options are extremely limited into the Braum Rumble, so
Gnar, jako když postaví Magic Resist Hexstringer, tak bude vyhrávat proti Rumblemu. Akali, tyhle ten matchup, já ho reálně neznám, ale mělo by to být, že Akali potom, hej, podle mě Akali je takový 50-50 a kdo prostě bude ahead, ten vyhraje, ne?
Builds lifesteal naturally in most matchups, and it just feels like a matchup where
teď je to takový.
Really has to outplay to find greater.
Tady nemůžu radit, jo, tady je prostě
to attack a more vulnerable target, but the more vulnerable target is an Ezreal who has that mobility, is a Rumble who in melee range can match your.
Ona se hraje s Grasp teďka.
It is a tough.
Oni jak nerfnuli Fleet, tak se hraje s Grasp, mám pocit.
And they just have to execute, I think, so much better.
They absolutely do. No lane swap here again in game 2.
Akali vyhrává 1v1 do 2 itemů. Kamera, ok, počnu.
Level 1 Rumble, level 1 Gnar, not. They do not survive anything. But of course, while we're getting this game started, remember to log into your Riot account and on LOLesports.com.
Ty pičo!
Watch Worlds live during exclusive Worlds emotes.
Co to bylo za damage?
You're already watching. If you're here, I know you are.
Electrocute straight up.
So just get free stuff while you do.
Mu dal 2 kvéčka na hlavu s autoatakem na Electrocute, ne?
No one's killing each other yet.
Komu se fandí? Honestly, fandím.
Okay, last game we were very comfortable in this position of no one's ever gonna fight ever, and then instant Sejuani ult, someone died, Pain Gaming won. That's how I remember it.
That's the craziest thing about game 1 is I was thinking that no one is gonna die and then PSG will win.
Nemluvil jsem s Tomášem o taktice.
No one will die except for PSG, and Pain will win easily in a landslide.
Okay. Dobré.
Early lane. The E forward from Cheeton, love to see it. Obviously it can be
a vyhrává 2v2 bot.
Farmfest. But good leverage of their 2v2 laning strength.
Ja, divím se, že Jhin nemá prajo.
The junglers on the other side of the map. I don't know how confident they would be exactly in that read, but they're just gonna, make sure they're last hitting all these cannons under the wave and just keep pushing them back. Vi's in a comfortable spot. It looks like Yone getting some decent trades off onto the Akali, even though that electrocute does pop when it hits.
Yeah, of course, trying to predict Akali's position with the Q3 ultimately whiffs means maybe just gets to walk.
Jak bych rankoval svýho bráchu jako kouče, doslova dostal tým z posledního místa na druhý místo, a.k.a. podle mě jeden z nejlepších koučů v Evropě.
Yep, got some nice information though when he checked the Raptors. He didn't ward, but it did give the bot lane confidence they can stay pushed up in that bottom lane.
Junja?
Bude Junja intit nebo ne?
So I'm really curious where the mental of these teams are going to be, because even though Pain did
To je kurva.
Naopak se děkuju, dobrý podvečer mistře, mám se krásně, děkuju. Teď mnohem líp samozřejmě.
And slightly more efficient jungle pathing. But I wonder if now Pain has
já jsem měl nějakou rýmu slash kašlání a furt to kašlání mám, jakoby, nebo ten divný pocit z krku. A to už je 2 týdny nebo 3 týdny.
They're laying down the ward just to make sure he's not going to get reganked here. No, it looks like set up to push away from him. So
celkem pan Krabs na penízky, jsem vůbec, nebojím se to přiznat, jsem pan Krabs na penízky. Hlavně jsem se ještě nedostal do fáze, kdy hlavní příjem jsou sponzoři. Reálně, když můj hlavní příjem jsou donaty od vás. Ani ne suby, ani ne prostě YouTube, ani ne sponzorství, můj main příjem jsou donaty. Tak proto tak pušu. V momentě, když bych měl třeba main příjem jako ze sponzorů, sponzorských jako spoluprací, tak v ten moment jako nemusím pušovat tolik ty dona.
Luckily for them, however, Maple has the shroud, just walks away. Woody able to W out that crash down, taking him to safety, so not too much lost. Does give a bit of free time for Betty.
Můj main příjem je Valve z profi kariéry.
Small victories there for PSG, even though it looked like it was a bait by Pain.
Ale tak jako já nemůžu žít z toho, co jsem si viděl v e-sportu dalších 50 let, chápeš? To tak nefunguje, já musím něco dělat, musím nějak pracovat a vydělat prachy. Teda doufám, že se dožiju aspoň 80, bylo by to cool.
PSG don't have that vision reliably, but they do have a trap, which is at least a little bit of protection to deny that vision from the side of Pain Gaming.
Co to znamená říkat F-gen? Proč F-gen? Proč Gracio ne? Proč to hraje? Je to prostě lepší než klid. Jsi tanky, největší problém s Jonášem je, že dostáváš one shot v midgameu.
The deadly flourish doing some damage back as Cheeton gets lower and lower. Have to be careful.
Kámo, ten Titan hraje docela dobře, jako na to, že to není Korec. No jako pokud nedostanu infarkt u Visage Hororovky za těch 1000 subů, tak se z těch 80 snad dožiju.
Of the Braum Q, getting as much damage down onto Betty, then also onto Woody, and that buys them space to move towards this Drake. With that being said, the Skarner is very obviously
Skarner to zatím neinký, jo, takže to je good. Jsem zvědavý na tu Akali, jako Maple je Akali hráč, když jsem zvědavý.
And we know how that one turned out. They stacked the soul and managed to win the game, so Pain's going to be very happy taking this trade one more time.
So Maple doing pretty well. And the isolated 1v1
ještě má ult. Jsem myslel, že zaultí forward, když ten Jonáš šel in. Ale neměl to, neměl energy, že?
He still got ult on a Akali.
I mean, 61 to 43 CS, he's doing very well, and you can see Jinkato forced to back at a time where he really couldn't complete an item. And the awkward thing for Yone, right, is you want
Kolik stojí chodící pás teďka? Jaký pod stůl? On nemá flash, je straight up dead. Actually, what the fuck? No to snad ne. No to snad ne. A pak Megagnár prostě. To je prostě fail do failu, do Megagnáru, do unlucky. Ult, já vím, že ult nestojí energy, ale ono Akali potřebovala ještě kvéčko, aby zabila, kvéčko, aby zabila toho, ten naši tam.
Also, Aja getting Mega at exactly the right time to make this a 2-for-0. That's the type of disaster play you can't have happen when you're already soft losing lanes, because now you look up at the scoreboard and they are substantially down in this game. Let's watch it one more time. So it's basically blind shot.
To sleduj, jo? Gnár jde melee range do Rambleho, takže to na intí. Unlucky. T-Tours.
Pressure in the bottom lane, knowing they were in the isolated 2v2, seeing so many members top, giving a lot more access to push in, and now matching up the plates, and even a small gold lead for Betty, despite the early aggression coming out of Cheeton and Curry. And this is rough, because while the Gnar only has a 400 gold lead,
350 euro stojí pás, co?
very ahead of the clock, and while I wasn't as jazzed about Heartsteel in the previous game,
Chat, pozdravíte mě, halo. Zubris, čauko.
Maple also continuing to extend his lead 1v1 against the Yone. So far this Akali pick, which is a little bit of a head scratcher to see at first, looking very well piloted in this Yone versus Akali matchup. Not only
ten pás pod stůl stojí jenom 350 euro. To máš za 6 000, za 7 000 máš chodící pás, myslím si, že to je drahé.
Really putting on a master class so far in this lane.
What do you hear, Junja here? Garner not going to buy too much threat, but will dissuade any further action as Jinkato just
Tak
consistently
good, to
force
si
use the
možná
soul
koupím a
inbound
budu
to pick
chodit
up bits
prostě
of CS,
na
pick up
streamu.
extra bits of gold.
Ono to není
A
zdravý
single
sedět
shuriken
7 hodin
flip landing
pojící,
at this
no,
health
vůbec.
state could be a death sentence, could finish the job. They're trying to control and
Hlavně po jídle.
losing control of the map. This game, you know, similar discipline in the first few minutes from PSG.
Ale Junja to není, je 2-0-0, jo? Musíme říct, jako Junja mi už vede si 10krát líp než předtím. Ajaj. Ale proč Q-flashuješ Woody?
Good to get that summoner spell. It does cost Woody his flash, however.
Yeah, so I mean, even though Braum
Minulou hru 0-5-0 Skarner, teď 2-0-0, už to nemůže být
the Nars consistently push in Wiser's Rumble, and then Maple's Akali has consistently got push in mid lane. So it's 2.5 to 3 winning lanes for PSG, and that's just one of the reasons this game is looking so one-sided at the moment. It's just extremely hard for Pain to actually make plays when you have 3 lanes pushing against you, because it means you can almost never get deep vision. You're almost never feeling confident.
Oni to hodně posrali tím draftem PNG, jak draftnuli prostě Rumble Yone 1-2. Oni měli prostě fakt draftnout jungle, Yone a flexovat Jonáše na mid a top. Landíku, já už to vím delší dobu, že já jsem četl tak 2 roky zpátky, 3 roky zpátky jsem četl research, kde bylo porovnání sezení u počítače, nebo všeobecně sezení třeba 10 hodin denně v kuse a kouření krabky cigaret. A kouření krabky cigaret bylo méně škodlivé než sezení 10 hodin v kuse. A Jirka na to taky udělal video, no. Z grubíci, 6 grubíků fight, pozor, pozor. Rel, kdyby teďka měla flash, tak tam dá foreman flash ult. Pozor, Skarner. Bam, nabušil ho, ale... Freeman! Ale nemají damage. Někdo tam chybí, kdo tam chybí? Kde je Akali celou dobu? Jako kde je Akali celou dobu? Okay, Maple, triple killu. Jaj. Jsem neviděl, kde byl Gnad a Maple.
That's exactly the type of fight you want to happen if you are Pain, since you are getting pushed in every single lane. If you actually have the opportunity to have a scrap like that, you're going to take it. And I feel like the Yone
Kdo vyhrál late? Vy se mě ptáte na takové zajímavé věci, jak kdybyste sázeli prostě. Vzal Brauma, no. Akali tam není celou dobu. Proč Akali pušuje mid a nemovuje? Ty vole. Ona si Akali prostě pušuje mid. Jako zónovala Ezreala slash pushovala mid, což je úplná píčovina. Zónovat Ezreala, Ezreal je vyzónovaný tím, že Akali mluvne do toho fightu, tak Ezreal nemůže fightit. Je to píčovina, zónit Ezreala. Je vyzóněnej sám od sebe, víš, že on nemůže prostě face checkovat Akali. Prosím tě, bude mít PSG na konci na 20,5 kg nebo ne? Otazník, otazník. Čet, vy mě zase budete nadávat, že vám špatně radím a když vyhrajete prachy, tak mi nic nepošlete, já vám nebudu radit.
Now that the second Drake has gone over to Pain, knowing how they won the first Drake.
Si spamujete XDD, však je to pravda.
And honestly, Maple's been that clutch guy for so many different
lineups, solo kill.
so many different names.
Solo kill.
Have to be that again.
Solo bolo. Dobrý flash. Ale víš, co měl udělat Gnar? Flashnout taky. Měl prediknout ten flash od Rambleho a flashnout ten throw flash. A dal by ho.
It's just to save Rumble. Wiser had such a good game one on Jax, struggling a bit here on the Rumble, which they early picked.
Hej, ale tady se mu mrtví, ne? To mohlo to nabejtit trošku.
Just really not under enough threat there. Woody able to back him up, and Chiton, of course, already heading back to the mid wave to try and catch that one. Right now things feel pretty good for the side of PSG. Of course, you highlighted Yone, a little bit of a get out of jail free. Isn't able to complete another item, but getting the recurve, getting the boots too, means that his 1v1 in his side lane, at least he'll be able to push pretty reliably. But right now, Junja just shows up to
Maple
deny
2-0 Storm Surge. Storm Surge je teďka strašně buffnutý na tomhle patchu, ne? Jako hrozně moc. Tohle je hodně důležitý, aby Akali byla... Akali je v inkondice tuhle hru. Buď Akali, anebo v Monster feednutej Gnar na split push. Jsou dvě win kondice, co mají PSG. Ale potřebuji, aby ten jeden, ten side laner, buď Akali nebo Gnar, aby vyhrávali. A zatím vyhrávají v oba dva, hej. Si s něma tady hrajou, ty vole, PSG. Tohle vypadá na 1-1, by the way. Jako solidní 1-1, že mají hrozně velký náskok, jakože to bude free win. A pro PSG to bude free win a pak se rozhodne v draftu, no, nebo jako ne draftu, ale to se uvidí další hra.
Once they shoved the wave in, they needed to get out of there. Ezreal had already left, so good on Woody for just immediately snap engaging to get that kill and extend the lead of PSG.
Cheaton taking a bit of an aggressive recall there. Betty not going to spot him, so we'll be able to return, but he's going to have first push on this mid wave. Herald still alive. Got resets coming in. This is something that they could look for on the map. Might instead.
Gnar je taky takový prostě fun to play jump.
Has flash barrier, didn't have to use any.
Yeah. Very
Tak to
close
se
there.
divím, on byl v rangeový, ne za ulti.
Portion of this Pain Gaming lineup just was not in a good enough position. The carry up wanted to follow up with the ultimate. But Junja.
Brahmos! Bam! Bouračka. O, fightos! Tohle nevím, jestli chcete fightit PNG. To by mohli nabejtit trošku víc.
Not to a lot of effect here, but was ready just in case the fight did break out.
Looking like a bounce back game for Pain though. Not only
ten nový patch už vyšel a už se dá hrát, jo.
Skirmish with the Braum kill, all pressure that Pain may have been able to develop evaporated as they all kind of collapsed mid lane anyway and still didn't win the fight. So you can see the side lanes there. Rumble completely pushed in. Maple's Akali up top lane, catching a wave, uncontested. This gold lead is only moving in one direction, and it's more in the favor of PSG.
Yeah, and if that is a Shadow Flame second, like we're looking at double buffed items for Maple. That threshold being a little bit higher means those magic damage crits coming a little sooner, and life starts to get miserable, even for the Vi, right? Who's a champion who's built a few more of those bruiser items. You get enough magic pen coming through, and suddenly he's vulnerable as well. Has to be a bit more careful about trying to fish for those plays. 37 seconds and counting. The next Drake will be up.
Se podívám potom na statistiky po téhle hře, jaký jsou čampy, jak se změnily statistiky čampů. Mně nepřijde, že se jako moc změní, ale bude to zajímavý. Zahrám něco s Little Tempem, nějakého čampa s Little Tempem. Kogmava třeba. A Lulu je buffnutá ještě. Řeknu Springy mu hraje Lulu nebo FF a budeme vyhrávat každou hru.
Keep pushing up the bot lane. Aja has full ability to push back the Gnar. They have a ward in the jungle, up, seeing him up there, and they should be able to pick up this Drake pretty easily.
They're weaker in most fights, and also they can suddenly find a man advantage and burst out a single target. They just don't.
6k gold if
Maybe
choose.
for the 1v1 off to the side. We'll at least get the ulti out of Jinkato. Can just continue to push that tier 2. It's going to force the recall from the Yone, but Maple instead might just reset and be ready to TP if he needs to.
Jinx Little Tempo Phantom is win. Jako na Jinx to bude hodně OP to Little Tempo, no. Ty vole, ten Skarn, teda ten Rumble a Gnar mega ult do Skarner ult je OP. Jako Skarner zaultí někoho, Gnar zaultí čus.
Left alone to defend this tower, but Maple is here ready.
Gnar se mi líbí jako champ.
Full control, 5 grubs going to be able to take more turrets down quickly. Still leaving that poor Skarner to kill the Drake all on his own, but it's kind of more what I expected from PSG.
Hej, screenshot odměn už je, nemusíš se bát hrát solo, ne? Oni vždycky udělají nějak screenshot toho, kdo má jaký elo a pak podle toho dávají odměny, to jako...
They didn't have any waves pushed, they had poor vision, and they just didn't have a good entry into the fight. So, well played here by PSG.
Nebo dokonce resetli rank, takže jako to play.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard for Pain to navigate out of this situation, right? You got Maple who's so much stronger.
TBH, ty 3 nový splity, jak to udělali teďka v soloky, je nejlepší, co mohli udělat. Že prostě, že se to lolko mění hodně, každý split. Jsou 3 splity za rok, místo 2, a každý split se mě říkali, že budou lolko měnit hodně. Teďka udělali ten durability patch, který se mi fakt líbí. Uvidím, jak moc se mi bude líbit, až budu hrát videohru, až budu hrát League of Legends.
Throws a W from far away, puts his ult up, that's all he needs to do.
The nice thing about having CC is like, even if you have no money, if anyone else on your team has money and you hit some CC,
it still works.
You've done your job. Yeah. Someone has damage, doesn't have to be you. So it's a good look to the side of PSG, but again, I think they're in a position where they don't really need to force anything. They can just continue to slowly extend their lead. Very likely that Baron will be on the table soon for them. They are a pretty terrible Baron taking team, though, admittedly. None of these champions well equipped for that particular challenge. If Mini Gnar could stay Mini forever, it'd feel a little bit better, but he cannot.
They also can't win through Soul, but they can win through just killing all the pain and killing the Nexus. I think that's going to be the strategy they take.
PSG to na intě. Nemají jak reálně. Jako reálně nemají jak. Oni mají takový chumpy, že to fakt jako nejde na intit. Tady je to choose, ace. Tak 2 killy jenom. Netrefil ani jeden spell. Ale to je baronek, čus. Když oni mají prostě chumpy, jako ty Akali nezabiješ, když chceš. A když Akali... Prostě dobrý hráč na Akali nikdy neumře. Na Gnárovi to je taky těžký ho zabít. Jhin taky. Ale tam reálně jde spíš o Akali Gnára, Jhin je prostě jenom je to takový jako roztleskávač.
Entire jungle is getting taken away from them. There's only 1 or 2 waves that they can actually touch. Like, you do need to actually get gold at some point in...
Ve fightu oni nějak musí zabít Akali, jenže to nezabijou. A Gnara to nezabijou. Tam a i kdyby zabili Jhina v tom fightu, tak prostě Akali Gnar dají 2v8.
Maple gets a little bit low, but ultimately just able to execute the Yone, and they walk away with a pretty easy 2-0.
Yeah, and this is, they have the advantage in push, in vision, in gold. That means the amount of options, similar to in our first series in that second game, right? You just, any attempt you have to make a play is always just going to be high risk. Bane not afraid to take those risks.
Ale víš, co je celkem smutný, že PSG mají lepší makro než Mad Lions.
Willing to dive these side lanes if they find the right look, but if they don't, they still have 5 grubs. They get the majority of the turret every time they move up with a wave, and it's just a matter of time until they extend the gold lead.
Gaming hoping maybe that a member of PSG will be caught out. Really, the only member who could be vulnerable would be Betty, but he's always so far back that there's not much risk.
Naše Mad Lions have fucked dog shit.
You can see they moved through the jungle. Next, they're going to push up the mid wave. They'll get vision here, and that's kind of going to be the next objective up in the top lane. It's really procedural what they're doing here in this game to extend this lead. And if at any point, since they're staying connected enough, if at any point Pain does end up going for a fight, it's going to be a losing fight because they're not going to be in the defense of their turret, and they're down so much gold.
Definitely. Ginger now completing the Sterix as well. Bit more tenacity, massive shield. So whatever hope they had in the previous fight of picking him off is
Kdo za tebe měl jít místo Mad Lions? Jako
PSG, you can see
reálně
this
nikdo.
first push gets them vision.
Tam je to irrelevant. Po G2 a Fnatic ty týmy v Evropě jsou tak strašně špatný, že to je jedno úplně. Ale nechápu prostě, že rok co rok se ty týmy, co nejsou Fnatic G2, zhoršou a zhoršou a zhoršou. Když prostě mají 2 dobrý týmy, nebo 1,5 dobrýho týmu v Evropě, tak si by se ty ostatní týmy měly zlepšovat a ne zhoršovat. Jako podle toho, jak hraje teďka Evropa, tak si zaslouží 2 sloty jenom. Amerika taky 2 sloty jenom.
3 lanes of pressure.
More damage.
Jinkato forced to go back. Q3 immediate
Wow.
ulti.
Kurv bullet.
Crucially.
Kurv the bullet. Záhní bullet.
Just been a kill. But now another tier 2 falling. Nor already splitting in the bottom lane. Someone needs to match, but Yone needs to go back to base, which makes everything so damn tricky. Bit of poke onto Junja maybe slows the Baron, but again, Baron probably not their priority with this particular composition. Is now desperation pick on the side lane. Can they take out the Gnar? Jinkato on the way in.
Já si nemyslím, že ho dají, guys. Tady dostanou ult do zdí, čus. A kam je ultí? A čus. Pozor. pozor, Maple to tam zkouší,
I think that's probably going to do it. PSG with a dominant game 2 here, only 24 minutes in, looking to finish off the ace, but even if they don't, they're going to be pushing these Nexus turrets right
Když
away.
neutil na Z, on by netrefil zeď, to bylo moc daleko od zdi, ale měl ultit jako ke svýmu týmu anyway, ne od sebe, protože to jim trošku pomáhalo.
But not quite enough in the tank to finish it here. PSG playing with that diligence and respect. They were upset once. Do not want it to happen again. So perhaps one more play. 12k gold lead. It's only no soul point for Pain. This is about as insurmountable as it
Teď hraju Solky a Jinx mega OP, já se podívám na statistiky. Největší win rate má zase Kartus. Cassiopeia. Zkusíme zahrát toho Kog'Mawa možná. Jinx 50% win rate. Ej, počkej, oni to nemají updateli, tuhle stránku s těma z... Tady není Little Tempo ještě. Damage, kolik? Jin nejvíc?
Twice this game, I want to say, and this time the ulti catching Curry. Mid animation as he goes back, so support out of the game. Cheaton stepping up here, Cheaton flash in, tries to find the knockback. Cheaton living for a brief extra moment, but they're going to need to block with everything they've got. Has to be careful of the curtain call as well. So many things to take into account, but Cheaton's still alive. Maple finally joining the fight. The damage from the Akali is good. Cario giving his life just to get his team out.
Now will not have Smite as they take the red buff on the way out. Surely they're willing to take Baron now.
Co je za win rate?
Yes.
Let's see.
All right, 25-44 is when they started.
And
it's still a really
slow 12,000 gold ahead.
A oni Emerald Plus je dobrý, protože oni ještě lidi nemají high elo.
Okay, it's like a 15-second Baron, and that's without Maple. Okay, now we're 15 seconds. So it is slow. Like, you can see why they haven't done it.
They're hilariously ahead.
That was a 20-second.
Yeah, that took forever. In the context of this lead, any other AD carry with that lead, that thing dies in half the time.
It really does. In no world is PSG nervous about this game. They're going to be much more comfortable in their review here going into Game 3. I think on the side of Pain, you got to be thinking about draft at this point for.
No, draft byl dog shit, piknuli prostě Yone Rumble 1-2, aby ukázali, co hrajou. Měli fakt piknout tu Liliu, prostě Yone Lilia a pak piknout whatever. A flexovat toho Jonáše.
I think that bot lane fight, he just R'd in and just immediately Storm Surge blew him up. Doesn't need RQ, you're done.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Storm Surge Shadow Flame when you have a
Lilia není champ na tomhle peči.
Fishing for anything, it doesn't really cost him much to just jump in Celestial opposition.
Co udělali Lilia na tomhle peču? Předtím byla nejvíc OP AP jungler.
And Maple continues to threaten on side. They don't have a ton of range, they don't have a ton of poke. Although, as I said, Maple might be ready to go in.
Just thinking about it.
But the way clear
outside flash, engage, boom, chycenej. Ale prostě nezabili Akali, nezabili Gnara. Jhin je jenom, oni si myslí, že Jhin je carryčko, ale Jhin je support v tuhle hru. Oni fakt jako musí zabít prostě nějak Akali, anebo Gnara, no. Jako AD carry v téhle hře je prostě jenom roztleskávačka. Lilia má nejslabší jungle clear na tomhle patchu. T-Tours chat. Tak 1-1 a bude fakt záležet na draftu, uvidíme.
For the players whenever they have a game like that, because it will feel so ridiculously hopeless with 3 losing lanes.
Jarvan ban.
I'm just trying to figure out how they can actually do that, because the Yone power pick, you would expect that to be decent. It got completely slammed by the Akali. They've played 2 sides of the Rumble
matchup. Jsem dal v pikem, že postupí z plénu. Mad Lions a PSG mám pocit. Nebo GAM? Mad Lions a GAM? Kolik postupuje týmů z toho z plénu? 2? 4? Tak PSG, Mad Lions, GAM a ještě něco jsem tam dal. Syndra first pick. Okay.
jungle options, excuse me, Jarvan,
To je zvláštní.
Skarner,
A 100 jsem dal,
but
fakt?
now,
Ajaj.
Syndra coming into the mix.
Yeah.
Jonášek.
In theory, you can win. They think this is
Akali.
a blind pick winnable matchup, but curious to
Proč
see what
ale
Maple
first
matches
pickuješ
it with.
Syndru? Legit.
In theory, also, I mean, Champions Q is so hard to know what to take from it, right? But in theory, also a flex.
Sure. I feel like it's
Akali,
been a very
insta,
heavily
ok.
blinded
Maple prostě
pick in
pikuje Akali,
Champions Q so
protože je to
far.
Akali
Historically,
one trick.
Syndra's been fairly blindable,
Nebo on je Azir
as long as
Akali
you can
one
build
trick,
the
no,
right
takže
type
jako.
of team comp around it.
Yeah, I mean, you get to hold every single champion at arm's reach. You know, abilities not forcing you to stop, not getting stuck in cast animations.
To je poslední meč
They
dneska,
feel
ano.
so good in lane phase, and if they do pair it with a Lee Sin, you have really excellent
Že
CC
dneska po tomhle dáme Marbles on stream, o ten KitKat kód, o těch 24 sušených KitKatů.
Really threatening in team
Jo.
fights. It's not like a super strong 2v2 early.
A zítra dáme
I could
typovačku.
definitely see Pain getting a little bit of
Wukong.
push through the mid lane, also the Ashe early pick.
Ash je
Gonna be
good,
very
champ.
vulnerable in team fights to
Ale
the Akali
Ash
Wukong,
do
but I
Akali
think
Wukonga,
for the
actually
most
dog
part, the
shit.
priority for Pain
Ash je
was
všeobecně
not lose
dobrý
lanes
champ,
as
ale
the
Ash do
game game
Wukonga
I mean,
Akali.
these two champions who you would expect to have the push
To
early
je
on
fakt.
at the
Syndra
very
Lee
least.
Sin,
And
dobrý
obviously the
kombo.
proactive playmaking you can get out of a Syndra and out of an Ashe ultimate can help
Kapesník
to
už se těší,
really set up
zase
this
vyhraje
Lee Sin
točku,
for
no.
success.
Však má flash. Jako Ash má flash proti Wukong Akali. A jako Wukong Akali ten flash nemá, nebo jak to mám chápat? Jin je useless.
You have a Wukong and an Akali diving into that backline.
Yeah, Wukong also going to be a flex. You can play it top lane or jungle. They don't need to reveal that yet. They could actually hold it all the way to the 5th pick and really throw a curveball if Pain assumes that this is a jungler. So makes these second phase of bans a little bit more complex for Pain as well.
Wukong top, of course, got a little bit more popular after his buffs on 14-16. I believe it was kind of the flavor of the month solo queue pick in Korean solo queue for a bit of time.
Steel Series periferie give ještě bude.
Wants to
Mám
try.
tam periferie schovaný
Yeah,
vedle.
if Cassandra gets locked in, then you can put the Wukong against it. We saw that in the LCS playoffs to decent effect.
Also just a champion against really any AD-based matchup with the passive buffs who just gets so much armor and extended trades, so any melee champions can feel okay, at least for the lane phase.
Já nevím, jak budou chtít protektit ale tu Ashe, když tam je Akali Wukong. To nejde, oni dají double flank nebo triple flank a nejde to protektit.
In the right circumstances, can be one of the most powerful supports in the game, just because of how good concussive blows is.
Brown ban, Poppy ban.
The rest of his abilities, they're all right, but those two abilities.
Poppy byl zrovna dobrý pro PNG, no, ale jako Ashe Poppy není linka, hej.
Absolutely. Another Poppy ban from Pain, even though I think it's pretty good against PSG's current champions. They just don't want to play against it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It would be really
Kontroval, co máš za elo? Nevím, jestli
It's
pojem
really
do
hard to think of a
šéfe.
champion that would be better for their team in the support position right now, but I guess, you know, want to give Lee Sin the freedom to live his very best life.
Yeah, just in case.
Poppy bude top, ale Poppy je ban, Jack se ban, ok.
Jack's taken away too, potentially
Bard.
holding.
Bard.
With Wukong in the jungle, you have AP in the mid lane. You could also look to get AP in the top lane in the form of the Rumble. While you talked about like the
to asi nebudeme hrát, to máme. Jestli nemáš elo. Co jsi měl za elo minulou season? Leona. Tak jako chápu ten Brown ban, ale jako Leona je taky good s Wukongem z Akali, je to fajn.
Holding the Wukong flex, which makes this pick a little bit more difficult. They could also just put Rumble in the top lane. It's going to be
Alistar by byl fajn, ale není to zase tak good do Akali a do Renatu bych kámo vzal. Normálně Renata by byla po piči proti Akali Wukong, podle mě. Reálně Renata. Renata je moje mamka, nice kapesníku.
Does a lot, but feels so useless in lane until level 3. A little bit better against Leona than it is against Rel, but still can be a little bit tricky.
Aatrox.
Forced to blind.
Jace, no, Jace ne.
Gnar,
okay. Malphite, Renekton, Riven. Co tam cápej dělá?
They have a lot of CC already.
Gnar je v poho. Gnar dokáže trochu, Gnar, Alistar, Syndra dokáže docela, a Lee Sin dokáže protektit docela Ashe. Pokud tam nebude triple flank.
Short of having a TP flank where you find that angle, it's often hard to get the immediate Gnar setup. rare that you get the mini double bounce into perfect ultimate.
Jdu s kapesníkem.
League of Legends.
Kapesník už nehraje League of Legends, kapesník je variety streamer.
Hovering things I don't think that they will pick.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them moving Wukong.
Okay.
Vayne top.
Okay. Here we are. I mean, well, I asked coming into game 2, hey, are they just playing old stuff? Do they not have anything new prepared for us? The answer is, no, they're playing new stuff.
He played 3 games of it in the summer split.
Yeah, but undefeated on Vayne. For me, it's new. And also, still crazy. Still crazy. No matter how much you play it in a region where you're, you know, the most domestically dominant team, I'm impressed if you pull it on a world stage.
Yes. I mean, let's see if they can just dominate the lanes once again. So the biggest breaking point for me here is how Maple will do in that mid lane matchup against the Syndra, because the Vayne should be able to get pushed.
Syndra by měla mít push do Akali, podle mě.
And if they can somehow manufacture a lead at mid lane as well,
Ashe, Alistar, Jhin, Leona, farm matchup. Jhin by měl mít push, ale.
PSG, this composition gets ahead.
Syndra Lee Sin docela dobrý kombo proti Wukong a Akali. Mid game vyhrávají, early game taky. Jako 2v2, ve fightu to je different story.
Should be in a much better position than they were in game 2. Can they make another upset happen? Not just a single game, but the entire series. Unprecedented for the CB Wall.
Čerko, typujete?
An opponent of PSG's caliber. 19th the global power rankings against 52nd. We'll still be a little bit different.
Já si to jako netroufám tipnout, no.
Would be an incredible thing for Pain Gaming to make that upset happen.
And it only takes one more game to take the series for either team. This is the deciding.
Ale jako plán je následující. Podíváme se na tu hru, uvidíme, kdo jako se kvalifikuje do Venice bracketu, kdo padá dolů z bracketu. Jestli PSG nebo Pain Gaming. Potom rozdáme z Marbles, rozdáme KitKat kód na PC a na sušenky. Pak jdeme hrát 1 nebo 2 solo queue hry, vyzkoušet nový patch. Pak na chvilku zapneme Visage hororovku, ať si to vyzkoušíme, jaký to je, protože bude tma. A v 9 večer hrajeme s klukama co-op.
Of PSG because all of Pain are waiting in that brush. This early ward secured just to make top lane a little bit better. Don't want to
kuličky budou pro kohokoliv, nejen sobě. Všichni se můžou zapojit do toho KitKat PC giveaway. Co-op hry, no Wormseeky, Golf with Friends a takový. S Flygunem, s Heizetem, s Herdinem. Proč Grasp Vayne? Oni nerfnuli Fleet Footwork. Ono reálně prostě Grasp je teďka lepší ve všem než Fleet. Healuje tě to o něco míň, ale healuje tě to, dává ti to max HPčka a prokuješ to častěji. Oni nerfnuli Fleet do straček. Visage je dost brutální honor, no tak to je super.
Definitely could be an option. Top lane though is going to be a little bit miserable. Luckily, the double wards in the brush means that Vayne cannot just abuse being able to walk in, tumble back, or tumble out, walk back in. And so we'll eat a bit more minion damage.
Se divím, že Riot vždycky říkal, že jako nebude měnit metu, forsovat měnit metu, a že když jako bude něco meta, jako třeba AD carry na midu nebo na topu, tak prostě to udělá tak, že prostě hej, tak hrajte AD na topu. Víš jak? Ale místo toho to nerfnuli straight up. Mohli prostě jako počkat, když se udělá, že by se budou, ta meta by se změnila, že by se hráli mageové na botu a ADčka na topu nebo na midu a prostě that's it, chápeš? Změna mety. Ale oni tu metu udržou, že AD prostě musí být na botu, mageové na midu a tak, což je prostě rigid. Tady jsou straight up dead. Wow. Close. Dá Q flash na Leonu, nebo? Wukong je zatím slabý. On to trefil. Wow. Ajaj.
Curry, who's forced to flash away, a bit over-eager there on the re-engage.
It really was. I loved the look already, though. They had the early ward, knowing where Wukong was starting. They didn't expect him to be anywhere near there because they thought the ward would have given them the correct information. So he three camped into full gank bot lane.
No, favorit na vyhrání v roce
setting back his
Genji,
full
no.
clear quite a
Podle mě.
lot, but then giving that kill back at the very end of it.
Ale ty nikdy nevíš na Worlds, v Worlds je takový strašně funny turnament v tom slova smyslu, že ten turnament je prostě měsíc dlouhý. A ty můžeš být třeba nejlepší tým ten měsíc, kdy začne Worlds, tak jsi nejlepší tým. A za ten měsíc, co hraješ ten Worlds, tak pak najednou nejsiš nejlepší tým, protože se prostě změní meta. Se přijde něco novýho na tom peči, nebo prostě někdo začne něco hrát jiným způsobem. A ty, pokud se ten měsíc v kuse neadaptuješ, tak potom prohraješ. Se klidně může stát, jako pravděpodobnost toho, že se to stane, tak je malá, ale může se klidně stát to, že T1 prostě chytnou slinu a začnou hrát mega dobře za ten měsíc trénování proti ostatním Worlds týmům a pak to vyhrajou.
Pressure going in favor of PSG, and it's starting to feel like a bit of a run back. Similar to game 2, different side for PSG, but the control of lanes is very heavily favoring them.
Yeah, something that was true in MSI and throughout the entire PCS split was when PSG got a lead, they pretty much...
Jo, DRX to tak měli, no, že byli čtvrtý seed a potom prostě začali hrát mega dobře a vyhráli Worlds. Měli prostě dobrý timing na dobrou metu. Kameru trochu dolů, dík, jsem si to nevšiml. Začínám být trochu unavený, jak streamu kolik, 5 hodin a perma a půl, ještě po tom jídle. Tak přemýšlím, jestli si dám kofein, ale ono jako na kofein je pozdě 6 večer už. Ne, 14-18 patch, oni nehrajou na tom durability patchu.
Hoping that he makes the same decision twice.
Swap na grubíky, ten je klasický, jo, 5.30 swap na botlane jde prostě v obě botlinky na 5.30 swapů na grubis, že grubis jsou silný.
Just having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scatterleak's still on cooldown, right? So there's not really immediate follow-up. You don't have ulti yet.
Dej si kofein, nebo budeš na co-op dead, to jo, ale zase neusnu, kurva. Tak já se podívám na graby a pak si jdu pro kofein, jdu si pro kafe. Koupil jsem si mlíko, takový mega mlíko po piči, od krávy, takový mlíko, co se zkazí za 3 dny. Jak se tomu nadává? Prostě to není pastery homo cosi a paste cosi. Chutná to mega mňam do piči.
While it's frustrating because you will lose some plates on the bottom side, you know, the Vayne with a bigger advantage, with grubs, the ability to shred through those plates even faster in the future would only feel worse. So
mléko od krávy, cože? No jo, fakt. Není to kefír. Prostě je to normální mlíko, normální biomlíko, který prostě nebylo pasterizovaný a homo něco. Homo něco prostě. A když to chvilku necháš v lednici, tak si tam udělá smetana, na vrchu máš smetanu. Ten je dead, nechte to Gnárovi, to je důležitý.
No, that's huge. I'm a little surprised that Wukong was there, to be honest. A lot of times you'd want to just continue to farm your camps, keep your lead.
Vy jste prasata, teď začnete psát v chatu, no jo. Ta semnice, ne, dlužíš mi 100 gifted subů. A nebo ekvivalent v donu. A dej to v donu, ta semnice, až to zapnu, to vysáš, protože budeš v točce aspoň.
Very much so often in pro play just that feast or famine champion, right? She's either single-handedly winning her lane in isolation in a way that makes it miserable to play against her, or doing very, very little. There's really no in between.
A ona jako prohrává.
Kato though continues to struggle here in a lot of these trades.
So syndromit.
Does have the lost chapter now, so can spam out a bit more in lane, but maybe forced into some early MR here shortly. In general, Orc Tread's very high value against any Leona and the Jhin, so wouldn't be a bad purchase.
Yeah, really interested to see how Jinkato can perform the rest of this game, since there's so many champions that want to flank.
Akali je broken, kámo.
In theory, he's good against the Vayne, but just really struggles against the Akali and the Wukong in teamfights.
Udělám ti domácí smetanu, ne dík, vole, nechci domácí smetanu, vyprasata.
And you can see also why it was important for PSG to ban the
Tak já
bomb,
si
right?
pro
So
to
much of their
kafe.
team comp is so vulnerable to those single pieces of CC. And now they don't really have that immediate reliable disengage option on the side of Pain Gaming. Circumstantially, you can Alistair headbutt somebody out, maybe Gnar can push people back, but it's just not the same reliability that Braum brings to the table. Now Weiser starting to push top lane, a little bit more confidence. Pain, again, looking to take another objective. This time around, though, it won't cost them nearly as much. Their waves are in a pretty good state. We'll see if PSG feel like they can contest this, but they're certainly on the back foot in terms of overall map pressure.
I think they just get this, which is... I'm a little bit surprised. It felt like PSG had control of this game, but now they've lost
Tak.
3 grubs, they've lost first Drake, and they haven't extended their gold lead, so quietly...
Drak A3 grubíci. Pain Gaming, to vypadá dobře, to vypadá hodně dobře, až na tu Akali, Akali je problém. Akali Wukong je problém pro Pain Gaming, protože Syndra a Ashe prostě vždycky umřou.
PSG, again, not much to play for on the bottom side, but as we start to split out into side lanes and AD carries are assigned mid, there is a lot of potential for picks between the Jhin and the Ashe, more than enough setup on either side if anyone does overstep here. Isolated 1v1 still very hard.
Víš, co je funny, že Gnar, když si teďka postavil Ninja Taby a Vayne si postavil attack speedboty, tak hádejte, kdo vyhrává 1v1 ten trade okamžitě. Vždycky Gnar. Vayne si TBH měla postavit taky Ninja Taby, aby vyhrávala 1v sidelane. Nedělám si prdel, ale fakt Vayne si měla postavit Ninja Taby, aby prostě vyhrávala tu sidelane. To je velká chyba, že Vayne nemá Ninja Taby.
Of his health bar to delete a wave to try to avoid a dive, which just puts him in a much more comfortable position. As now Aja gonna get kicked backwards. Q does manage to connect anyway. Aja spotted out there. That invisibility not doing anything against the Lee Sin. Good pick from Pain Gaming.
Here we go. The Syndra pops in.
Ne, jako legit, Gnar, když teďka bude right-clickovat a Vayne right-clickovat each other, tak Gnar vyhraje 1v1.
Extend the pressure, and that's just exactly what PSG was hoping would happen in the bot lane, but the play was nowhere to be found because the Syndra could easily clear the wave. Vayne could not easily clear the wave on the sideline like that, so the play has a much higher success rate. Well done there by Pain. Aja wasn't allowed to be there.
Vayne bude hovnu, jako jo, bude no. Kámo, 6 grubíků. Nevermind, to jsou grubíky pro PSG.
Excuse me, has to be careful about not stepping too far forward here, but Clen's so high value.
Kdyby měla Ninja Taby, tak přežije ten dive, nepřežije. To ne.
Finishing up the grubs. Maple trying to get as much gold as possible in the side lane, not as accelerated as he was in the last game. Once he gets his Storm Surge though, he's still going to be a huge threat to both the Ashe and the Syndra.
Smartly backs away. In the previous dive, he cleared the wave fast enough that he would have been okay, but when both Wukong and Leona are in the picture, it's more than enough.
Máš radši kávu nebo kofeinové čaje? Čově, kávu.
And it's really interesting. He did this exactly right. He waited for
a ty kofeinový nápoje myslíš jako co?
And then he moves up on the cannon wave, doesn't really lose anything.
Nebo kofeinové čaj, jako myslíš černý čaj, zelený čaj? Jako dobře udělaná matcha, když je sladká sama od sebe, tak je po piči. Ale to je málo kdo.
Tasemnice donate 99 korun českých pro Gambu XD.
Ne, musíš poslat 100 korun, tasemnice. Tu korunu ti nedám. Já jsem žid. A jen díky 200 korun. Ty pičo, já si vždycky já zapomenu, že tam ten alert je, vole, a já si vždycky leknu, že kdo na mě kurva klepe, vole.
Hyena potržítko donate 200 korun českých. Funguje to ještě
vždycky
pár
se úplně jako, že kdo tady je, že tady legit já bydlím sám. Kámo, ten alert mě vyjebává ten alert. Vždycky na to zapomenu.
Well, in 3v3s, you can argue that the Wukong, Leona together are going to do a decent amount of work.
Ta se mi díky za 99 a Hyenu díky za 2 kilečka. Já se leknu vždycky, no protože kámo, legit, já tady jsem sám, prostě já bydlím sám, ke mně nikdo nechodí, na mě nikdo nezvoní. A teď prostě já mám to nahlas jak svině, ty sluchátka a najednou prostě jak kdyby telepoval někdo tady na dveře, já mám dveře hned tam, chápeš? Jako od baráku.
Good spot to be. I mean, we saw in game 2, right? It was just difficult because even if they found the angle, they were far behind enough that they couldn't finish the kills. And while Wukong is tanky-ish jungler. Bruisery does get a lot of armor for free if he stays in combat.
Yerba mate moc nepiju, tyjo, mohl bych to vyzkoušet. Ale já bych rád chtěl nepoužívat kofein. Vůbec. Ale já jsem závislý k čávo na kofeinu. Tak, Vayne je úplně turbo k hovnu. Gnar je, hej, jako to, že vyhrává takhle Gnar je fakt důležitý. Tenhle Next Drake říká, že je important, ale není. Tady reálně klidně můžou nechat toho draka za top turetu. Kdybych já byl PNG, tak nechám draka, PSG a vemu top turetu a Heralda. Bylo by to mnohem lepší, než tady contestit tohle. Ale vyvejstili ultimátky Vuko. Reálně fakt jako, já bych havroval top lane a nechal bych jim Mountain Draka a vzal bych Heralda top a Tyr na top. Mnohem důležitější pro tu hru, aby, jako jestli by to PNG udělali, tak reálně řeknu, že vyhráli hru. Co dělá ten Titan, on šel back zbytečně. OK, oni nemají ultimátky, nemají nic, to je free drag pro PNG, měl by to být free drag pro PNG, ještě tam Gnar tipnul. Tohle PSG, jestli tady začnou toho draka, tak by tady měli dostat ace, kámo, legit. Tohle je giga grief. Ale oni špatně resetli. Ale ty pičo, ten Gnar, vole, ten má koule, ten má větší koule než já a to kurva mám velký motek koule teďka. Ty pičo, ten sápek tam vlezl, jak vole. Prostě koule má napřed tam vlez. Tohle, by the way, ta hra vypadá, že to je even, ale ta hra není even, ta hra je jako podle mě 70-30 pro PNG.
Maple, I think, TPing top to try to get this wave in to make sure that they do have a pressure point where they can get a bit of vision control around this objective. Herald, of course,
Rise Together od T1, ten hodinu, koukali jsme na to na
250 korun českých. Ahoj, viděl jsi Rose to JF od T1.
Jo, to je to ten hodinu a půl dokument od Red Bullu, Steven. Bylo to hrozně pěkné. Ani mi to nepřešlo jak hodinu a půl, koukali jsme na streamu na to. Ashe postavila Blade first item. To se mi moc nelíbí, tady legit měla postavit Static Shift Trinity Force. Protože jí to dá HPčka a movement speed na to, aby přežila proti Wukongovi a Akali.
To si děláš prdel?
Jinak Ice Wolf, díky za ty
NOLTX02
točky, vítejte v
donate 100 korun
točkách, NOLTX,
českých.
díky.
Ten Gnar má dobré spermie.
Gnar má dobré spermie. Tady by neměli fightit PNG, jo, protože nemají Gnara. Gnar to musí movenout na top. A on to movuje. Hustý, Gnar to movuje, ten Gnar hraje fakt dobře. Gnar hraje fakt dobře, borci. To mě jako překvapuje, kde hraje fakt dobře. Hraje dobře makro, hraje dobře teamfighty, pozice. Ale měl by tu zůstat a vzít toho Heralda za Tier 1 bot a neřešit. A fightit, hlavně by tady měl stakovat Mega Gnar. O, má nastakovanýho Mega Gnar. Má nastakovaný ten Mega Gnar, to je mega good. Tady vyhrajou podle mě Pain. OK, na Intil to Turbo Lee Sin, nemá flash, ale stejně by měli vyhrát. What? Co se stalo s Gnarem? Já jsem caster kurznul Gnara. Co dělá? Pane bože! Kámo, on failne stun, failne ult, misklikne si tu posranou plantku. Ty vole. Nězle. On reálně misplaynul 3krát po sobě. Během 10 vteřin udělal 3 game losing chyby. Nebo prostě úplně teamfight losing. The fuck was that?
Wall up, I imagine what ends up happening there is you're buffering the wall,
Sleduj.
you're pushing it as you lock your camera, so it ends up going
Tady si říkám, Pain vyhráli prostě, Lee Sin stačí kicknout, Lee Sin nedá kick. Gnar má mega. Misne tohle. Misne ult. A ještě dívej na tu blast plantu. Hitni tu blast plantu, co? On se misklik. Pane bože, pane bože. Skoro. Skoro, že nezabil ty creepy dřív, ten Gnar.
Traded in return. Mid lane, I believe, under pressure as well. So 2 towers taken down for 1. Pain Gaming in a decent spot. They want to continue.
Kolik mají? 3 gruby. Tady by měli vzít tier 2, to je Worf. A pak by mohli možná i defnout tu tier 2 na botu. Ash, Alistar měli běžet na bot lane, ne na top lane.
Which, if you could do this in real life, I think
Oni to vemou taky, actually.
I figured out economics. I've never
To je víc Worf pro PSG.
We're just both going to accelerate the
PSG.
game. That's what we want. I think it will probably actually end up favoring.
Ten Gnar to nemyslel, ale Star mu nalantil, ale to je jedno, prostě myslel ult.
I think it favors PSG though, is what I'm trying to get at, because more so because of the space created on the map. That gives a really deep angle if they can ever get really deep push in that bottom lane for Maple or Wukong to come up.
Jako naintil tam stun, naintil tam blast plant. Mysnul ult, whatever. To, že mu to Alistar vyhodil, to neřeším. Prostě mysnul ult. Zahrál to nejhůř jak mohl. A potom ještě dostal catch na botu. Ten je tiltnutý podle mě.
Yeah, and looking at the items, PSG is way stronger. They have two complete items on Akali and on Jhin.
Problém je teďka Wukong a Akali, hej, to je velký problém. 2 itemy na Akali, 2 itemy na Wukongovi. To je nebezpečný. Ale Maple je na topu. Tady se divím, že to tak give upli. A fighty. Zajímavý TP. Akali je straight up zabije až. Dívej, jak je prostě Ashe useless do Akali. Tady jsem strašně překvapený, že pikli Ashe do Akali. Prostě...
Wow, that was so close. They almost missed the smite on the Drake. It went down to 13, but then they were still able to secure it. I think they're going to ultimately
nejde hrát Ashe proti Akali, to nejde prostě. To je unplayable, proti Akali Wukong. Kde je Gnar? Nevím, Inti to.
We're still early enough in the game and the gold lead not big enough that it'll take a little bit of time. Bikarioka, can he get into the pit? Doesn't have ulti. 5k getting lower. Jinkato closer, closer. 3k, they're going to try and burst it. The objective should just fall here. They're going to try to pick up a pick in the meantime, but I don't know if this fight favors them. PSG still ready to go. Round 2 not quite going to happen.
70-30 Aleši. No však bylo to 70-30. Jak já to mám vědět, že Gnar si 3krát po sobě zlomí ruce, je 3-0, má 2000 gold lead a 3krát si zlomí ruce. Kabátové zíky ve 4. Co dělá Gnar? On se nepohnul, on má ninja taby, že? On nemá mercs. Dostal permastun.
Especially Hextech, right? Yeah, arguably the strongest soul in the game in terms of
Worlds equals sub Aleškovi. Kabátovec, to má být celoroční sub, come on. Oh! Škoda. A tady to vykajtí ta Vayna. Monkey dík za Prime. Dobrý chase, Jhin CC bot. Škoda netrefenej ten poslední. Komu fandím? Pain Gaming jsem fandil, nebo fandím. Chat, vy jste zase mad, že jsem řekl 70-30 a vy jste si vsadili a zase to tak není, že? Dík Aleši, takže kvůli tvým predictions příští rok Chorvatsko padá. Chorvatsko je snad nejlevnější dovolená, ne? Hej, počkej, ale... Už dávno ne? VTF. Bejvávalo, já si pamatuju, že Chorvatsko bylo levnější než Česko, no. 10 let zpátky.
They're still able to secure their own jungle. It's not as dire as it was in some of the previous games. I still think we're headed to a pretty interesting end to this game. I would slightly favor PSG from this point.
Tam je levně.
It's like they're out of mistakes.
Yeah. Titan has to watch that tower get taken down, but luckily has enough movement speed to get away from that Wukong. But he continues to push in mid lane. Baron buff still there for 20 seconds. This is the last wave the PSG will have to play with this particular buff.
Byl se ve Vietnamu, byl, no.
Really walk up alone is the difficult portion. Still powerful in the isolated 1v1, but still not the longest range, not the most threat onto a tower.
And Maple having a second straight strong Akali game.
4-0-1 Akali. Bye. Jako, reálně proč hraje Blade, ta Ashe, tuhle hru?
And if they execute, you know, exactly right, then Pain won't win another fight. Pain won't get another objective. But
Nimbus to si byl kde, že si platil 100k za dovolenou.
Let's say Maple gets picked, misses ultimate, or maybe Wukong dies before a fight. That could be Soul, and then I'd immediately favor Pain in the game. So while PSG is favored, is ahead, they're right on the tipping point if they give up this Soul accidentally.
Very close. Tenuous advantage.
Jo, že byl ve Vietnamu, jo.
Denied the Soul from the side of Pain Gaming, but can't afford to get caught out on side lane. You can see Maple immediately backing off. Doesn't have the vision.
Kam se musí udělat ty PNG, aby vyhráli. Tam reálně. A i když získají tu soulu, tak prostě prohrajou, mi přijde. Ten Wukong Akali je tak velký problém. Akali to musí nějak na Entita umřít, jenže prostě dobrý Akali hráč nikdy neumře. Ten champ prostě neumí umřít, to není prostě v playbooku Akali. Jen se díky za 2, děkuji za 2 měsíce. Viděl jsem ty Van dokument, hoši. Japonské je mega drahý antibite, no, jako to. Ashe to tankuje. Ashe to tankuje všechno, pozor. Pozor. Akali je úplně mimo pozici. Tohle vypadá zajímavě. O, dobrý flash od Ashe. Ten flash od Ashe byl huge. To byl huge flash, ale prostě Akali broken. Ale jako to byl huge flash od Ashe. Ale prostě Akali balance XDD. Ale Maple tady měl hrozně bad pozici. Hrozně bad. On šel front to back a ani nešel in kvůli tomu, že byl front to back. Nic neudělal celý fight, mohl jakoby... Wukong is able to secure it, and then the end of this fight is just pure chaos. Kámo, ale ta Akali, to je broken sračka.
And again, we talk about Maple so much when we talk about this team because he's that historic figure, right? He's the guy with the pedigree, but when he's the guy with the hands and the mechanics, massive 7-0-1
Proč tam ukazují Matsa? Potom, co prohraje fight, tak proč mu ukazují?
Game 2 incredibly dominant. Game 3's been a bit more tenuous for them certainly, but Maple is in such a strong position to bring this.
Trošku ale jako strašně zvláštní, jak oni prostě pikujou nebo jako banujou Pain Gaming. Třeba nebanuli tu Akali a tak, víš?
Once they move into the pit, their backside gets so exposed for the flank of the Akali or even the Wukong that it gets really dangerous. And that was a fight where
a teďka Ashe staví armor pen. Zajímavý. Víte, že jako jediný jako její úkol je přežít proti Akali co nejdelší dobu a stejně hůře. Tak na co staví full damage? Do tanku. Syndra zase.
They try to force the play on the side of Pain Gaming, but PSG punish that single moment, that little bit of inaccuracy. Quick reaction comes in from Junja, stops any of that initial poke, any of that initial CC from landing.
No jako Pain Gaming drafty jsou problém, protože oni prostě vidí Akali a piknou Wukonga a piknou Ashe.
Or gold lead, so that's likely going to be another Baron here for PSG.
And now, it starts to feel a little bit easier for PSG, I think it's safe to say. 3.5 items getting closer and closer to 4. Their gold lead not insurmountable, but feeling pretty damn close. Still have to respect the potential of Soul, but otherwise, they're in perfect setup to close this one out.
Exos proti té Akali by pomohl, určitě. Furt by umřela ta Ashe, ale pomalej. Divím se, že má Ignite actually ten Alistar.
It's really hard for Maple to die. He's 2 levels up over Jinkato. He has Zhonya's.
Ta hra nejde vyhrát pro PNG teďka, jak je 7-0 Akali. Ona prostě neumře.
There you go. Again, managing to land these Qs. Spotting out Junja. Will clear the wave. Jinkato having that range does still make it pretty easy to defend these towers, especially even through the Baron buff when they bring enough members to the 4. And Maple finally moving to bot wave to try to get that going so that they have more pressure points to play around, but not the most effective Baron thus far from PSG.
No, definitely not. Only 1,800 gold on that Baron power play. 2 minutes left. Going to reset, maybe try a little bit more. But that's because they've gotten rid of the majority of the easy standing gold, aside from this one turret, where Pain was all 5 grouped up since PSG didn't have any good side lanes to push.
Jedině odchytí CC Chain. Akali se nedá moc chytit, když má zóny plus ten Shroud.
Yeah, and should have the better vision control and better position around that Drake, which again is
reálně Syndra nějak musí stát vedle Ashe a když Akali bude nějak engageovat, tak Syndra ji musí nějak trefit mimo Shroud, stunem a vysypat ji. S Ashe Arrow, Syndra ult.
Jhin is one of those champions who goes from haha I'm an ult and a snare and nothing else to like oh I'm two tapping you.
Yeah.
And there's no tank. Right, like Alistar, yeah, I guess with ult, but like everyone else, very vulnerable to the Jhin. The historic weakness of Jhin not being able to shred through a tank is not an issue here. Also because he has a Vayne on his team.
Yeah, I feel like if Ashe gets to half health, like 1 Jhin bullet kills him.
Yeah, it's a really scary prospect on an immobile champion like Ashe.
And Syndra still doesn't have death cap. Is there a chance he can get it before? He's only
Tam
on
stačilo
700 gold
tam
at the
stačilo piknout
moment.
něco jiného než Ashe. Klidně Ezreal.
Yeah. Oh, maybe they can get Maple.
Oh!
Maple eating the wrong way. That's not what you want to do. Dracos. There goes the Zhonya's. I cursed him. I cursed him.
To si děláš prdel?
Šmoula! Díky za kilečko, vítej v točce, bráško.
100 korun českých.
Jsi zlomil ruce, kámo, ty daj soulu, ale jako podle mě stejně prohrál tu hru, by the way. Oni vemou soulu a stejně podle mě to není, jako stejně nemůžou vyhrát, nebo tady prostě dostanou 4v5, Ivo. Dobrý flash od Ashe, ale tady prostě Syndra musí stunout Vayne. O, Vayne tam dává 1v2. Co dělá Ashe? Co dělá Ashe? Kámo, Ashe, ty jsi takovej dog. Co to je za pik? Co to je za ježišmarja, piknout Ashe a pak hrát Blade. Ježišmarja. Nemohla ta Ashe zůstat s tím, s tou Syndrou a zabít Vayne? Halo? Zahrál bys lead? No, rozhodně bych nepikoval Ashe tuhle hru, to je nejhorší pik, co mohlo být.
Death timer's been too long. Curry, there's got to be no way he can hold this one. PSG, it starts with Maple getting picked, but they outplay. Tunnel vision from Pain, focus too much on the objective.
PSG nakonec comebacknulo, ale? Takže PSG pokračuje do winners bracketu. PNG jdou do losers bracketu. Chat. Nikam nechoďte, protože teďka si rozdáme kód na 24 sušenek od KitKatu. A na to šanci na to vyhrát PC za 100 000. Dáme Marbles. Marbles na streamu dáme, jo?